Hey, this is Jack from Golden Dice. I don't even know what podcast this is, so I definitely don't listen to it. It might be Discard to Reroll.
Roll trash, Daddy.
I won't roll trash.
Hi, this is Ben from California, and I never listen to Discard to Reroll with Mr. Chip.
Hi, I'm Seth Holocron, and I never listen to Discard to Reroll.
You sat in big doo-doo.
Hey, this is Bobby Sapphire from the Hyperloops, and I legit never listen to Mr. Chip on Discard to Reroll.
Discard to Reroll.
It's Discard to Reroll. We're a podcast about a little dice and card game we like to call Star Wars Destiny. I'm your host, Mr. Chip, and if you like Star Wars Destiny, you better, if you're driving, I recommend you pull over. You want to call your family and friends. It has been an insane amount of content and just stuff happening in the Destiny community. Each time I try to actually do this podcast, I've had to redo the agenda. From nerfs. I mean, that happened. It feels like 100 years ago. That was just like last week. We had nerfs. We have rules clarifications. We got tournament updates. We got North American championships coming up. European championships coming up. Oh, by the way, a new set dropped. And out of nowhere, they drop another new set. Well, not the actual cards, but some of the cards. Like, I feel like I just got my email about the spoiler, which, by the way, spoiler, we got Jabba the Hutt, that meta-defining card. The guy's going to run the meta. If you're thinking about playing cards, that's the guy. Fun fact. That's not even Patreon. That's totally free, that tip. Jabba the Hutt, that's the guy. It has just been crazy. Across the galaxy news, I mean, just amazing stuff. So we're going to get right to it. By the way, if you want to participate in the program, we do have some of you that email in and have been putting up with all of our crazy content. We did a cool box opening actually with my best friend Zach on a boat. We called it the Yacht Rock Edition. So if you have not seen that yet, that's going to be 30 minutes you'll never get back in your life. But we had a lot of fun doing it. And somebody gets pushed in a lake. Let's just say opening a box of cards, somebody's going in the lake, and they look very familiar and very similar to me. Thank Boss Nass for that. Which, by the way, what I'm hearing is people are opening like 7 of those in every box that they get of Way of the Force. But we got some great stuff coming up for all of you. Now, first, I just need to make this, let's do it now. I want to make sure everyone understands those patrons of the show. You make this stuff possible, and I can't thank you enough. We've got some new ones to talk about, too, and I'll be thanking each one of you personally. I'm going to fly over to your house, actually, knock on your door. Bobby Sapphire, I'm talking about you, one of our newest patrons. You can come over to your house, knock on your door, say hi to the wife and kids, pour some wine, open a couple boxes with you. Should be a great time. But really, thank you, everybody who has supported the show. Now, we've got some stuff for you. We do. I mean, we know about alt art cards, and by the way, they're a fan favorite, but somebody might actually not like them all that much who happens to make the game. So we've got other things too. Not to worry, not to fret. We just released what's called the Rolloff report, which proves to you that I really am way too obsessed about Star Wars Destiny. We're going to talk about that a little bit today. Also, any of your tournament resources, if you're looking like you need a one-stop shop. You're looking for that PDF so you can do your list before the tournament, make sure you do that. Like, they'll be sitting there like a schmagoo at your first tournament and you're all nervous about it. And what are you doing? You're trying to fill out a list of your deck list. Like, that's the worst thing to be doing. Bring that thing to the tournament. Trust me, there's no special PDF you need to do. You need to get the one that's on our site. It's actually from FFG, and we've made it so that you can actually type in it. So get your deck all typed up, get the deck list, and then just bring it in like a freaking high roller. Better yet, a re-roller. Hand it to him. Here's your deck list. Elite Jabba the Hutt. You're going to win. Trust me. What else do we have? We've got, one of the things I like to do, I heard an interview with, great. I heard an interview, but I can't remember it, nor can I talk about it. So that tells you where we're at right now. It's been a long day. I think it was with Jonathan Magnuson from Destiny Council, and he was talking about how he might have been a Knights of Red. Not exactly sure. No, you know what it was? It was on Your Destiny podcast. That's what it was on. Friends from Denmark, the Danish champions over there. They asked him about how he likes to go about building his decks, and he said he puts his cards in binders and then opens them up and nine it on a page. Now, by the way, spoiler alert, I've got some binders to talk about later in the show that I think are even better than the one he's talking about. But having those cards laid out is a great way just to get familiar with them, right? And, people building on TTS, it's not the same. And I know all of you can't afford all the cards. I get that, but you got to have the physical cards and have them in front of you. Super important. Well, on our Patreon, I've got those so you can just look at them on a PDF, print them out too, if you want. We're not talking proxy quality here because we don't want to go to jail, but we're talking about how you can, it's all these resources, tournament resources galore, and help yourself over there. It's a shared Patreon Google Drive that we have for you. And in there's plenty of other stuff. There's tournament, all the rules and the holocrons, and we just put it in one place for you to see. All the cards sorted in every different way. If you want villain blue, if you want hero red, and it's all picture based because they speak 1,000 words. They speak 1,000 words. And that's the way we like to look at our cards. So it's all there for you. Head over to the website, discardtoreroll.com. Click on the Patreon link. And I'm going to tell you right now, there is some great stuff that's coming up that's not card-based that I think you're going to really, really enjoy. And it's going to be announced on the next show. Now's the chance. $5 and $10 tier, you can get in on that. And let me tell you, appreciate all the support that you offer for Discard to Reroll. Now let's get right to it. Today, a few things we want to talk about. First is I want to mention that Rolloff report, which is difficult because it was kind of in that point where now the new meta is going to start to evolve. And store championships are one thing. And Jedi Geek Girl, by the way, shout out to her. She's insane when it comes to data. And she's got all this great stuff on the Ivor Rebel website, link in the show notes. And it's about the store championship seasons and what she's seeing as the top tier decks from those. Very difficult to figure out because you're talking store championships. It's not a regional tournament, which it's a lot easier to call that information. Even on those for Destiny, it's hard to get information. But the point is, for the Rolloff report that we did, the idea of the 31st card being the battlefield, right? That's the 31st card in your deck. Really thinking about that. There's an interview that I did with Sith Holocron from Ireland, which it was a great interview. And again, quick plug for the Patreon. It's available over there. And he mentions that. He said that idea of the 31st card is so important, especially now with all these cards that are coming out in terms of battlefields, that there's the importance of winning the battlefield is paramount. Is paramount. Even if you can take the battlefield and claim it later, like that, there's a lot to be said about that first roll and roll off. And so what I did was I took a look at the top meta decks and then predicted a few of those decks. So I'll give you an example of some of those decks in a minute and how they fared out and just what my findings were from that, and get your feedback on it. And if you think that's important or not, or what does that ultimately say about Destiny and the roll-off? How important do you feel it is? Do you think it's just a waste of time? Do you even care? Like, you just probably walk in to play a game, sit down. I don't care. Don't even roll out. Go ahead. See what you care. Well, that's the Rolloff report. We're going to talk about that. What else? We are going to talk about the meta, the latest meta. Now, before the set, actually, it was right when the full set was spoiled. It was the day that it was launched. I put out a poll and a survey on the website and on the Facebook page about what people were predicting to be the new meta. And basically by asking some questions about the cards and what's the hottest rare. And by hot, I mean like the most played rare, the least played rare, most played legendary, so on and so forth. And then ultimately what they felt that this set was going to be known for. I got some great results. Definitely people predicted. There was a prediction. There was a definite trend. And early on in this meta right now, we'll see exactly whether they're right or wrong. I can't wait to read that to you. We're going to do that next on today's show. So that's good. What else do we have? Oh, I've just got some things that have bothered me. It's kind of like Destiny counseling. We're going to talk about that. One thing that bothers me is Jay. Jay's not here. Remember him? Trash player Jay? Nope. Mike Rudin. Mike Rudin's been on 17 podcasts in the last 3 weeks. And he does Jedi Trials now. And they get $1 million in their Patreon. Good for them. By the way, it's JediTrials.net. Go subscribe to them. They're great stuff. So we're going to talk about that. We're going to talk about Across the Galaxy. Across the Galaxy? Like, I didn't even finish opening my packs. I didn't. And I understand there's a shortage now. There's a supply problem with Star Wars Destiny. Again, surprise, surprise. I think that's a good thing. Sort of. I mean, if they resolve it quickly, which the feedback was they were going to resolve that quickly, I guess it means people are buying it. I mean, this set is bonkers good. Bonkers good. Love this set. But across the galaxy, we'll talk about that. And what else? Oh, yeah, Sealed. I played some Sealed over at Just Games in Penfield. Shout out to all the players over there. I'm about done with Sealed. I like it, but after the second one, I'm done. And I've got some reasons why. So get involved with the show. It's the Twitter, which people say Destiny community doesn't use Twitter, but guess what? We do. It's over at twitter.com. If you've ever been there, /discard to reroll. It's TO reroll. We post a lot. We also have Instagram now. We're posting there too. Some different types of stuff over at Instagram. And we've got a Facebook page that occasionally we say things on. I just can't believe this across the galaxy. It's blowing my mind. I mean, it really is. I mean, we just got the new set. I made a joke on Twitter that I feel like they use Hootsuite or something. If you don't know what that is, it's like when you can queue up all of your posts for Twitter or Facebook or your social media. And they had this ready to go at the beginning of the year. And they said, yeah, no way Way of the Force will be delayed 70 months. And so I had this already programmed to go on July 18th. Release information about the new set. And the new set comes out in November. I don't know. This is what we asked for. We asked for this information. I just want them to be consistent. That's really my message to them, is just be consistent. Consistently inconsistent is not consistency, by the way. Just be consistent. But I'll take it. I'm of the camp. I like it. It shows commitment to the game, and I'm not going to complain at all. But I'll tell you what I'm not going to do as well. I'm not going to use those cards. First of all, I don't even like TTS. But second of all, we got to start worrying about this meta and how this meta is going to shape up. So we're going to talk about that. Hey, how about rolling for the battlefield? One of your favorite things to do. So I've watched people just not even care about the battlefield roll-off. Let me tell you something, people. You better start caring. Because if you play Star Wars Destiny, it's one of the unique mechanics about how you determine who goes first and who gets shields. And that whole idea, I think, is one of the things that I love about Star Wars Destiny. Makes it truly unique. And I think right now with the battlefields, you're seeing such a variety. And you throw in plots there. I'll be interested to see where this goes. You got Bendu's lair that has a die with it, which, by the way, has not been as earth-shattering as people thought at the beginning. And although my partner in crime who opened packs got a lot, I did not. I got one in a box out of 4 boxes, which is pretty crazy. He got 6 in one box, which that's an exaggeration, but I think he got 3, which is pretty crazy. So anyway, so the roll-off. Point about this, the whole tirade about roll-offs here is that it is important. And in an interview that I did with Sith Holocron, by the way, shout out to Ireland and Norn Iron, which is where he's from, Northern Ireland. He mentioned that thinking about that battlefield as your 31st card in your deck and the synergy that goes into that. And with all the cards in Way of the Force, you're starting to see that more and more. So then how important is that actual roll-off for you? You think about those 2 shields at the beginning, right? We talk about squishy characters. So if a character has 9 health, you throw 2 shields on it, it's got 11 health. Now what would you pay for that character, right? So maybe you want to intentionally not get the battlefield. And there's a lot of ways that you do that. By having a deck that can win the battlefield regularly so that you can control that conversation. And if those 2 extra damage are important to you, then pick a battlefield that you know that you won't mind not having. It doesn't even matter. A lot of mechanics there, a lot of decisions that go into that conversation. And with cards like Price and the new ruling on that idea of the battlefield becomes even more important. Throw in Rex and just having the battlefield becomes important. And there's cards that if you start to dig back in the archives, for the people like me who are crazy and collect all these old cards, I think for a very limited amount of time, you may find some goodies. We'll talk about that on next episode, digging through the archives for your one last hurrah with these cards from Awakenings and Spirit of Rebellion and Empire at War. But what does that roll-off ultimately mean? So I did way more testing and research on that than any human should. And it's called the Rolloff Report. And by the way, it is available to patrons. But I want to just tell you really the summary. And that is that we basically took the main decks of the time and I made some guesses at what the meta would be coming up. And I know it's not 100% correct. But we've got a formula now and a system that allows me to go ahead and substitute decks pretty quickly. And with that, we simulated a roll-off 9,999 times. Now, what I've learned about this community is that a lot of you are really good at math. Fun fact, I am not. Okay, I mean, I'm good at computers, I believe, that can help me do math. I'm good at asking your... I don't want to say it because it'll make it act Alexa. I can ask Alexa stuff. Like, watch this. Alexa, what's 27 divided by 21.2? It answered upstairs. See, I mean, it's very fast math. But the kind of math you need to be good to be good at is on the fly. So I use programs to help me do that when it's behind the scenes. So for the Destiny Gauntlet, here's the decks that we actually tested. It was Kylo 2, Anakin, Stairs, which is, I think, affectionately called Steps now after the nerf, Boba 7th, Thrawn Townsend, Palpatine, Hero Mill, and that Hero Mill at the time, I've got to look at what cards I used for that. I think it was Riken, Yoda, where's the other one? Riken, Yoda, something else. It doesn't matter. It's terrible. Partisan. All right. And by terrible, I mean terrible at the roll-off. Cad Snoke, Kylo 2, Snoke, Plo 2, Padawans. Those are kind of the three of the new meta that I was guessing. Price should have been in there. I get it. Poe Hondo, Hero Vehicles, Obi Maz, 5-die Villain, and Yoda Hondo. All right. I just threw all those together and basically rolled them off against one another. Oh, I did Sabine Ezra too. And by the way, then they nerfed it. So, in the report, you'll see the tombstone for that deck. One other fun fact, that deck was a beast on the roll-off. I mean, no surprise, right? With those dice. So what we did was we took those and simulated roll-off basically 9,999 times. Why? Well, because my column headers were in the first and I didn't want to add another row. So there you go, because I went 10,000 down. So 9,999 total simulated rolls for the deck. What I've learned is that the variance, let's say we did it 100,000 times, the variance in those rolls, in my mind, was insignificant. All right. So basically we simulated that roll and we simulated another deck. So deck A, let's say deck A was Kylo 2 Anakin and deck B was Boba 7's sister. We took those decks, simulated a roll off 9,999 times, and then we got some results. The results were either the first deck won, the second deck won, or they tied. That's the result. And if they tie, you roll again. So, for example, in that matchup, Kylo 2 Anakin versus Boba 7's sister, what do you think would win? Take a second. What do you think would win the majority of the time? Because any deck can beat any deck on any given day. If a deck has a blank or it has ones, and if mathematically it's possible for one deck to beat another deck, it will happen. And it may happen 3 times in a row. It doesn't matter. It's random. Maybe. Depending on the player you're playing against in their dice. But I mean, you're hoping that it's random. So what do you think? Who wins? Kylo 2 Anakin versus Boba 7's sister. Kylo 2 Anakin. All day long. Here's how that worked out. Kylo 2 Anakin, off of the roll, I called OTR, or off the roll off. 48% of the time it's going to win. Right off the top. Boba 7th, that's 34% of the time it's going to win. And they tied 34% of the time. Hopefully that gets you close to 100%, right? Pretty close. Take that all together. I had a win or tie number. So Kylo 2 Anakin won or tie 82% of the time. It won or tied 82% of the time. Let me play that back for you. So Kylo 2 Anakin on the roll off or off the roll, 48%. Plus 34% for tying means you're going to win or tie with Kylo 2 Anakin on average 82% of the time. Boba 7's 69% of the time. Is that close enough for you to think like it's a wash? No, there's enough variance there that says Kylo 2 Anakin's going to win right off that roll. Here's another fun fact about that. Boba 7's sister is terrible on the roll-off. Terrible on the roll-off. When you look at 13 decks, so basically a deck could go 13-0, right? And a deck could go 0-13 and everywhere in between. Boba 7th is 4-9. So, the way I lump that deck together is don't count on that winning. It's too much of a variant to assume you're going to win. There's too much randomness there, right? I mean, again, there's randomness in all of it. It's dice. Again, assuming they're not loaded. But, that deck probably isn't going to win for you more times than not. So you're thinking to yourself, Salve, what's the best deck then? What do you think it is? Well, I already told you that Sabine Ezra was a beast. That was a top 3 deck for sure. Top 3 deck. Let me give you some other matchups. Let me tell you what deck you're not going to win the roll-off with. Surprisingly, Palpatine was not the worst. Palpatine was definitely not the worst. In fact, in my testing, it wasn't even close to the worst. That's an exaggeration. But it was definitely not worse. Definitely not worst. What do you think was the worst deck? I'll read you the decks one more time so you can play. If you're in your car, here's the game. You're going to predict which deck, and here, I'll give you its record. In my testing, it was 0-13. Kylo 2, Anakin, Stairs, Boba 7, Thrawn Talzin, Palpatine, Hero Mill, Cad Snoke, Kylo 2, Snoke, Plo, 2 Padawan, Poe Hondo, Hero Vehicles, Obi Maz, 5-die Villain, or Yoda Hondo. Which deck was 0-13? Yoda Hondo. The deck was terrible. Oh my God. We looked at good matchups and what it had trouble with. It had trouble against everything. And I said its good matchup was single die Jar Jar because it was awful. Here's why. When you take those die, specials might be great, but they're not great in a roll-off. Yoda Hondo, the average roll for that deck when you roll both elite is 2.75. The mode, this is getting really... If you're listening to this with anybody else who doesn't know Destiny, they're sitting next to you going, what the hell are you listening to? The mode was 2. So mode is the most frequent number. I just noticed an error in my spreadsheet I got to fix, which is just I wrote the wrong number in one of these things. The mode is 2. So mode is the most commonly occurring value in a data set. 8th grade math. What's up? Pretty poor. So if you look at like what did that deck roll out of the 9,999 dice rolls, it rolled a 2 26% of the time. So when you added the value of 4 dice, it rolled a 2 26% of the time. That's 2,609 simulated rolls of all those dice. That's terrible. Sabine Ezra, by the way, let me contrast that for you. Again, you're thinking to yourself, what does this mean? I don't know what it means. I mean, I can tell you that when you add the cumulative sum of, which is what cumulative is, you add the sum together of all those dice, and if it's a high number, other than specials or some crazy power actions, it's usually telling. It's usually pretty telling. I'm sure you could build a deck that would crush on the roll-off and just be terrible to play. That's really not what this is about. It's just to give you that information. When you sit down at the table, you got to know what you're going to do with that roll-off. Like I compare that to golf and that first time up to hit the ball. Like, you know where the ball is. You've got your driver in your hand. Like, it's teed up for you. You know that you're going to sit down with your deck. You're going to shuffle your cards. You're going to take 5. You're going to mulligan. You're going to get your resources. You're going to roll your dice. What are you going to do? Are you going to win that, by the way? Are you expecting to win that roll? And if you are you shielding up? Or you're saying to yourself, it depends. Well, okay. You pretty much know what battlefields are going to pick. So know what your battlefield matchups are and know ahead of time so that that's a decision you don't need to think about. Now, I talked about it in the open when I said, like, have your deck list ready to go, because that's something you don't need to think about. You just want to be clear. You want your mind to be clear, and then you can focus on the game. At least for me, I need to do that. That's why I don't like TTS for me. Because I'm worried about my camera. Like if I'm playing, if like recording streams, and I'm trying to get there, people, we're going to get there at some point. But I'm worried about that. And then the microphone sounding good. And are my levels right? Is it recording? Are the cards, did I hit the right shuffling thing? Did I grab the card and a resource at the same time and flip it all? Like, I don't need to be messing around with that garbage. Just like when I sit down to play somebody in Destiny, I want my cards in the right spot. I want my sleeves good to go. I want everything away, like everything that I can control. And I guess that's what it is. It's basically the illusion of control or delusion of control. But get that stuff figured out. Sabine Ezra, 4.91 was the average roll. You're not beating that deck if you're playing Yoda Hondo. Maybe once. Not nine. Roll at 9,999 times. See what you get. The average roll was 4.91. The mode was 4. That deck, by the way, Sabine Ezra. So we're talking about a deck that's been nerfed. But just, again, for your own benefit and mine, Sabine Ezra rolled here. This is just insane numbers. It rolled 4, 18% of the time. It rolled a 5, 16% of the time. It rolled a 6, 16% of the time. It rolled a 7, 10% of the time. And it rolled an 8, just for S and giggles, 8% of the time. In fact, that deck rolled a 10, 82 times. Now, that's 0.8%, which means less than 1%. But it can do it. This is why when you see, when you watch games being streamed, like particularly live games, particularly competitively live games, and you see somebody roll a god roll, quote unquote god roll, like 82 times. And this is just simulating. And I know I didn't roll the dice with my hands, which sounds bad. 82 times out of 10,000, basically. And by the way, it rolled a 0. Blanks, 81 times out of 9,999. So 0.81%. Good God. By the way, let's go up one more. Yoda Hondo. Want to know how many times it rolled a 0? 5% of the time. Almost 6% of the time. 5.58% of the time. That rolled a 0. It rolled a 1, 14% of the time. It rolled a 2, 26% of the time. And a 3, 23% of the time. You're not winning with that deck in the roll-off. Just know that going in. Hero Mill's just as bad. There was 1 in 12. You know how many times it rolled a 10? 0, because it can't. That's my other fun fact. When you watch the good players play the game, and look, the people listening to this show, you're not listening to me to become the greatest player in the history of the world. You're listening because you love Destiny and you want more Destiny content. But let me tell you something right now. One of the things that they do really well is understand that the dice can only roll what they have on them. Right? They can't roll things they don't. When you're re-rolling, you got to know that if it's mathematically impossible for a die to change its values mid-roll to get a 3 when in the highest side it has a 2. Like that's, you just got to know that. And I know you're laughing like, of course, no. People sometimes don't, that's just sometimes escapes people when you're playing. So when I say Hero Mill rolled an 8 0 times, it's because it can't physically roll that number. So you really shouldn't expect it. Oh my God. And it gets worse from there. But Palpatine, like that was 3 and 10. Okay, it was terrible. It was terrible. But that deck can pull off a 6. My testing, it was 17% of the time, which when you look at the statistics that you can get, it matches up pretty close to that. Matches up pretty close because in a 2-die deck, you can actually do the math. That's got 2 sides of that number, right? I got to take a look at Palpatine's die. I haven't seen that in a while. Let me see what Palpatine says. Palpatine. Going to go to one of the best free resources, by the way. Quick plug for Star Wars Destiny database. Like people complain about that. Come on, it's free. It's free. Star Wars Destiny database. Let's go to Palpatine. Palp. There he is. Yeah, he's got a 2, a 3, a 2, a 2, a 1, and a blank. So, I mean, the highest value you're going to roll with him is a 6. In that simulation that I did, and I've done it multiple times, the 10,000 or 9,999 rolls, it all ranged around that number for me. So, do with that what you will. But it rolls a 4 or higher 47% of the time. That's pretty good. That's pretty good. If you knew you're going to get a 4 every time in your roll-off, it's not as bad as you think. But in my testing, it was 3 out of 10. 3 for 10. You're saying to yourself, well, give us the goods. Well, I don't want to spoil the whole report. You got to go over to the Patreon for that. But here, I'll give you the one. Number 1, 13-0. What's it going to be? This deck went beast mode. Cad Snoke or Snoke Cad. It was so early in the meta, I called it Snoke Cad. Doesn't have a real name. Every deck in the format, it beat. Now, it was close for me, and I tested that again. I simulated 3 times the 10,000 rolls. 3 times. And it was undefeated every single time. That deck is just a monster. Its average roll is a 5.21. Its mode roll is a 5. There are 3 decks that have a mode roll of a 5, by the way, which means in 9,999 rolls, the 5 was the most common number. It was Cad Snoke, 5-die villain, and Kylo 2 Snoke. So that tells you something right there. It's close. Between those 3 decks, it's close. But again, it's just beasted through decks. Now, Snoke is good. This just in, Snoke is good. But it doesn't matter because if you're just playing Snoke, you're probably in trouble. But his die's a beast. And it adds up to good values in the roll-off. And that lets you make different decisions. I want to hear from you. What do you think? Is this a waste of time? Do you care? Did you already fast forward through this because you want to get to the next stuff? Just so you know the numbers, 5.21 was the average roll for that. It rolled a 0 barely ever, 14 times. That goes for a 1 and a 2 as well. It was very low. Rolled a 3, 10% of the time, a 4, 17% of the time, a 5, since it was the mode, 2,259 times rolled a 5, 22.5%, 6, 20%, 7, 14%, 8, 6.3%. I mean, this is rare air that this deck is in. 5-die villain is pretty good too on that roll-off. No surprise, those decks are some of the best in the meta, and so is Kylo Snoke. 5 as a mode is good. This just in, that's good. There's a few other decks that are good too. Head to the website if you want to see it. Never Tell Me the Odds. It's a Battlefield roll-off. We're going to add some decks. What should we add? Give us your feedback. Questions at discardtoreroll.com. Shoot us a tweet on the Twitter. It's at discardtoreroll on Twitter. That was fun to do. It just took forever. Really, it's almost like I should have been reading like Vader Raider because that's how long it took me to do. But it's just me, people, and it was super fun. And thank you. Also, Bobby. This is like Bobby Sapphire is like invading this podcast. He's in my head. For some reason, when I was opening packs in a boat, which you can check that out on the YouTube channel, I felt like that's how Bobby opens his packs of cards. Even though he did a really good live stream of that. But I feel like you sit there with his box of wine, and they're like, all the Hyperloops are laughing and playing footsie and passing around their little dice, making their brews. Anyways, to the point, he shared with me a simulator that was online too, which I appreciate. And things got close. They matched up. They were similar. Some slight variance and some slight difference, but this is what I came up with. So I hope you like that. And Jedi Geek Girl, you talk about data. It's a long talk about that. Sorry. It was exciting to do. Young me would just smack me right now. So it would smack old me to say, did you just say data reports were fun to do? Yeah, it was fun. I liked it. I'm actually a Google Sheets guy. And Google Sheets couldn't handle it. Too many workbook pages, too many worksheets in the workbook. Too many calculations. Happy to help people if you want to know how to do that, by the way. So you can do it yourself. What were we talking about? Jedi Geek Girl. Yeah. She loves data too. She's a data nerd. Big time. Proud of it, too. And she's got something called the Meta Breakdown, the 2018 Store Championship Report, Week 4, the Wild West. It's hard enough to get regional results. How are you going to get results from store championships? Well, she figures it out because people like her. And so she put together some pie charts that would make any Pythagorean would be jealous, would be tearing up in his grave. So here's what it says: the winners and the percentages. Kylo 2 Snoke, 11.8%. That's pretty good. Snoke seems to be the guy. I was talking to some people the other day. They said Snoke was going for $100 for a pair to run him elite. Are you kidding me? Just wait an hour. It's not going to be. E-Luke 3, which is, we got to have a better name for him. E-Luke 3, E-Ray 2. Good God. Now it's algebra. 11.8%. That's a deck too. Here's what's concerning me big time. Mill, some guys from my local played at, I don't know the name of the store. I want to say Oneida, New York, but I don't want to get it wrong. So I said it anyway. I think they were doing some Cassian Mill. Who knows? But I think it top 3, 1, 2, and 3. I just don't want to do it. I don't want to do it. I mean, you got to like the game. Like people who played Po Maz, here's what I got to say to you. First of all, I'm jealous because you were playing in tournaments when I was not. But more importantly, did you like playing that deck? Like, did you say, like, yeah, this is a great game? Because if I could give you a deck that would win, but it was just terrible, like really boring. I don't know, like Mill. Would you play it? Like, what is that? Do you want to win? Is that your goal? Because that, man, that's like eating bad brisket for me. As a vegan, that's bad. Anyway, sorry. So if you play Mill, you could, I appreciate it. And in fact, most of this is probably from my own insecurities. Actually, all of it is. So you can go ahead and feel free to give me a psychological assessment as the podcast ends. But that's what we got. I don't like playing it. What else did she do? Good God, Jedi Geek Girl. This is crazy. Look at all this data you get for free. She gives it to you for free. Man, winning character, Snoke, 10%. Saw that one coming, or did we? I'm going to read you some results of a survey in a minute. 10% Snoke, 8% Yoda, 6% Kylo Ren, Tormented, Jedi Partisan, not Jedi Partisan, 4.8. Luke Skywalker, 4.8. Rey, Finding the Ways, Rose, Anakin, Cassian, and then the list goes down. Wow. Finalists, let's see, where does it say winner? Hero, 61%. 61%. Here's what you got to know. If you've been part of Destiny in the community for a while, when Destiny was going through Empire at War, I remember listening to some podcasts like Knights of Ren, for example, and everyone was talking just about how much garbage Hero was. It was just garbage. We're talking pre R2P2. Hero was garbage, and like Shields was garbage, and Vibroknife was the big deal. Excuse me, I had to take a drink. I get so worked up about data. It's very exciting. Yeah, so Vibroknife, Hero is bad, right? That's one thing you heard all the time. You're shaking your head. Here's the other thing you heard. Vehicles stink. You can't play vehicle decks anywhere. Can't play them. Boy, has things changed? I think so. Because people talk about all the time, well, the best deck in the format is drive-by or whatever it is. I don't like to call it that because it's bad connotation. But hero vehicles, right? Hero vehicles. And heroes dominating. Except they didn't win Worlds, did they? It was a villain deck, which I don't think it's any credit at all. The people who lost to it give it a lot of credit, but I don't think the community does. The word I hear about that and the phrase, I hate it. I hate it. In a vacuum. What does that mean? In a vacuum? I don't want, what, in a Dyson? You're going to vacuum my head like a Flowbee? Everybody remember Flowbees? In a vacuum. Man, off the rails. I apologize. But anyway, the whole point of that diatribe was that the adjustments to the game are starting to happen now. They make the adjustments in sets. You're not going to see that the next set. You're not going to see that in Nerfs, maybe in a Balance of the Force or whatever it's called. But, you're going to see those changes 3 sets from now. And now you're seeing it. Heroes going crazy. Shields are good. That's a great video. Heroes Gone Crazy. Man, I love that stuff. You got to be an adult to watch that. And vehicles. Vehicles are nutso. And they're going to get better. Way better when it comes to across the galaxy. So put that in your pipe and smoke it. You want to see all that stuff? I'm not going to give it all away. It's iRebel. And by the way, she's got a Patreon. God, my mother started a Patreon. If you want to get stuff from her advice on buying things from QVC, because that's what she does every day. And I love her. But she buys a lot of stuff from QVC. Okay, roll-off report. We did that. Oh, I had something else on this. New binders. Do you need me to talk about new binders? I had somebody texted me, hey, Chip, did you see the new binders? Yeah, I saw them. I saw the new binders. They're terrible. I just talked about Jedi Geek Girl. She loves them. I've got one. Let me go get it. It's a podcast. It's good radio. Here it is. There it is. Here, listen. Here's how it opens. That's a magnetic closure. Do you hear that? You want to put your cards in this? You want to put comes with a cardboard box to put your deck in, and 40 die slots. Help me understand how that works. I love Destiny. I love FFG. I do not like these binders. Great news! You can win one of these if you become the national champion or European champion. Binders. I don't even know who the characters are. Do you really want me to tell you this? Here, secure your dice. 3 new dice binders for Star Wars Destiny are now available. This is on July 12th. At one point, this was like all the news that was out there. I love that they even put a quote. I don't do any voices, but Snoke. If I keep talking, my voice is going to sound like Snoke. My worthy apprentice, son of darkness, heir apparent to Lord Vader, where there was conflict I now sense resolve, where there was weakness, strength, complete your training and fulfill your destiny. Snoke, Star Wars, The Last Jedi. How in the world does that relate to binders? Into the garbage chute. That relates to binders. Good God. Sorry, I lied. 44 sleeved cards and 44 dice. What do they say it's for? Remember when they said mill wasn't a good strategy? Who said that? If Sugi's listening, Sugi's moving. He's not listening. But if you were listening, Sugi, I think it was on your show. I think it was somebody. I think it was Lucas, actually. Lucas. Figures. It was Lucas. But I think he said he doesn't want mill to become a viable strategy or a viable win condition. Now they love it. FFG has mill parties. Christmas sakes. Whether your deck focuses on dealing damage or milling your opponent, whether you're committed to the light side or devoted to the dark, you can I would love to be at this meeting where they wrote this copy. Can you imagine saying, all right, guys, everybody gather around. We got this 3 new dice binders. We got to write some promotional copy. Phil, what do you got? Well, I wrote a few things. Whether your deck focuses on dealing damage or milling your opponent, whether you're committed to the light side or devoted to the dark, you can find a dice binder that's perfect for you. And there was like silence in the room. And then one guy just started to clap, and then everybody got up. They're like, yes, this is gonna do it. $14.95. Let me just give you the last line. For those still listening, as the podcast has officially gone off the rails. We've officially jumped the shark. I won't even tell you what's inside of the promo picture, by the way. Yes, I am going to tell you. With every die visible simultaneously, finding the die you want has never been easier. It has never been easier. I don't care how easy you thought it was. It has never been easier than right now. There's more. Like Phil was. Each dice binder also features stunning art of an iconic character from the newer Star Wars movies. You may pledge yourself to the First Order, commanding Captain Phasma as she leads her stormtroopers into battle. Spoiler alert. They treated her character like garbage in the movie. You may learn the ways of the Force alongside Luke Skywalker on the planet Ahch-To. Is that the name of the planet? Or you may embark on a desperate mission to steal the Death Star plans with Jyn Erso. With one of these characters emblazoned on the cover of your dice binder, you can represent your own strength and fortitude in every game. It's more. There's more. There is more copy about this. Phil gets paid by the word. Fulfill your destiny. You've already built your perfect deck and collected your most valuable cards. Now it is time. Not it is. It's contraction. It's worthy of a contraction. Now it's time to store them in style. You can get Jyn, Phasma, or Luke. There you go. Dice binders. I give up. What else were we talking about? I don't even remember anymore. We're talking about dice binders. Here's something else that bothers me. This podcast, it's already off the rails, people. So I'm going to tell you what bothers me. Hard to play decks. I am not going to hate on content creators. You know why? Because I love them. I listen to all of them. It doesn't matter what it is. If they're talking about Destiny, I listen to it. And I'm excited about it. And it helps me get through the day, or it helps me sleep at night, or I run on my treadmill, or do whatever I got to do. So I want to say thank you to all those people that do that. And by the way, it's hard. It's really hard. And those people who put out a lot of content, I'm telling you what, they're not playing a lot of Destiny. It's hard to do both really well. It's really hard to do both. So if they're good at Destiny and can do the podcast at the same time, I'm telling you, they're a rare person. Rare person. Anyway, point being, everyone talks about hard to play decks. And I remember it coming out big time with Bro TK, which is another thing that bothers me, but we'll mention that in a minute. So Bro TK, that deck's really hard to pilot. Piloting decks, really hard to pilot. Mill's really hard to pilot. Very hard. I mean, you got to really understand what you're doing with that deck. 5-die villain, some tough choices there. Very hard deck to pilot. Yoda Hondo, that is really hard deck to pilot. Like every deck's hard to pilot. Stairs, that is hard. Sabine, I'm not a good Sabine player. Very hard to pilot. Every deck's hard. Every deck's hard. I mean, what deck is easy? Boba Phasma? You think that's easy? Play it. It's not that easy. Every deck's hard. Drives me nuts hearing that. It's hard. Like every deck is hard. Every deck is hard. There. I feel better. Oh, here's another one that bothers me. From the list of things that bother Chip. One turn kill. Bro TK. It is not a turn. It's a round. Turns, I go, you go. That's a turn. That's 2 turns, actually. There are turns that make up a round. So when you hear that, you tell them. You get right up. You get right up on that table. You say, it is not, excuse me. You be like Phil. Like when Phil's at an FFG meeting, he stands right up and says, I'm going to write the copy for the dice binders. You get right up there and say, that is not a turn. That is a round. You're speaking of a round. So it's one round kill. So I know it sounds good to be Bro TK, but it's really not accurate. That's not the accurate thing. Oh, boy. All right. Skill to pilot. I don't like the term piloting a deck, but that's not a Destiny thing. We won't go there. What else do we got? Box opening we talked about. Meta results. Oh, the poll. So we did a poll. And thank you to everybody who filled that out. We try to make it easy to do. The results were very telling. Let me tell you what we did. We had a lot of you that answered these questions. And let me summarize them for you. Which legendary, this is a Way of the Force Hive Mind opinion poll is what we did. Way of the Force Hive Mind opinion poll. Here's, let me give you the set for it. Where'd it go? Where did you go? Here it is. They say 2 heads are better than 1. How about 1,000? Let us know your thoughts on the best and worst from the Way of the Force before the set drops. And we're going to compare what we thought with what actual playtesting is showing. So I want to give you some of that now. Let's go to the questions. Number 1, which legendary do you think will be most played during the Way of the Force meta? And I let people actually pick 2 cards. Here's what the people said. Out of the legendaries, it was, you ready for it? 39% wrong. It was 42.9% said Ezra Bridger's lightsaber. 42%. Holy smokes. Do you think that's accurate? Or not? Maybe it's not now. Maybe it will be later when some cards rotate out. But they're thinking you're in the meta. I mean, during this meta, there's still another set. I don't know. Let me tell you what number 2 was. 39% said Luke. That could be right. And after that, Cassian, 37%. And then fourth was Dagger of Mortis. And then 5th, 14% said Snoke. Interesting. Would I put Snoke at 1? Yes, I would. According to Jedi Geek Girl's results, Snoke tends to be the first one there. But it's not just competitively. We're thinking I guess the meta is competitive. But right now, or at least when this came out, Ezra Bridger's lightsaber is what people were thinking. That definitely drove the early prices, too. What do you think the least will be? I could have predicted this one the first time I saw it. 66% say General Grievous's wheel bike. In my box opening, I threatened to throw my friend's son into the lake if he opened it. We did not open that. Funny enough with that, it's not like Rebellion Leader for me. I've opened 4 boxes. I've gotten 0. Actually need 2. And I'm really struggling with that. I do not want to buy 2 of those cards. I was talking with Jack from Golden Dice, who convinced me that he does not have all the cards. I need to talk to his Mrs. Jack, because I think Mrs. Jack would argue to the contrary of that. But he's saying he doesn't have every card, like he didn't get some of the legendaries that were garbage. I need proof of that. What's next in that list? Formidable. I'm not so sure about that. I'm not sure. I would put Grievous next to that one. Planetary Bombardment was 17%. Stealthy was 17%. Sorry, Mike the Rebel Spy. And Hail Fire Droid Tank, that was 25%. I did that a little bit out of order, but you get the idea. So, Grievous. No love for Grievous. How about rare cards? What do you feel will be the most played during Way of the Force meta? And the rare cards, number 1 by far, and the card that people thought just was going to be the dominating card of the set. It's Arinda Price, Unscrupulous Governor. Right now, they're saying the hot deck, it's Kylo 2 Price. Maybe, I don't know. From there, 50%. It's close. Say Plo Koon. Here's the thing. You're not seeing a lot of the content creators post any of their decks or any of the... It's not just content creators that are good at Destiny. I'm proof of that. But it's all the top players are not posting their decks right now. They're getting ready for Gen Con, which we'll talk about in a minute. After that, it was Ezra. Ezra Bridger, 30%. And then Count Dooku, 23%. I lied. 25% was Luke Skywalker's lightning rod. So let me read those back again. It was Price, number 1. Plo Koon, number 2. 3 was Ezra Bridger. 4 was Luke Skywalker's lightning rod. And 5 was Count Dooku. 6 was Skywalker, Anakin Skywalker, Pod Racing Prodigy. That card got maligned when it came out. So did original Ezra when it came out. And those cards end up being amazing. And they're amazing because people like to play a lot of dice. Those 5-die starts. 5-die starts. It's tough. Predicting the meta is tough. Do you think it's tough now? Wait till Across the Galaxy comes out. I feel like I want to hold off my thoughts on that because I want to talk to some people who actually play with it right now and get their thoughts. That just blows my mind. I was using my app of choice for building teams in Star Wars Destiny, which is, oddly enough, it's called Team Builder. You can get it on iOS. It's amazing. Amazing app. It's worth every cent. And they did update it, not with the new characters from Across the Galaxy, but the Way of the Force is updated. 73,882 pairings. So if you're going to tell me, I don't care who you are. I don't care if you're Bobby on the yacht drinking the boxed wine, and you got Joe and the other guy there, and that's officially calling him other guy. If the three of them are on the boat, you got 73,000. I can't even remember the number. It's so high. 73,800 combos. I mean, other than Jay from Double Blanks, who's a math wizard, I don't know anybody else who could go through those. I mean, it's impossible. Now, a lot of them are garbage. But good Lord. Man, so Ezra, the whole reason where that came up is because of the most played cards in the Way of the Force meta from the rares. By the way, the least is the card I definitely have the most of these. Big shout out to whoever designed Count Dooku's Solar Sailor. I want to say thank you for that card. Good Lord. That's good for checking your hemorrhoids is what that card is for. It can tell your width in their opening because that card is bad. Boss Nass. And Firmius Piat. Those were tied for second least played. I don't know about that. I'm going to disagree with my lifeline here. I'm going to ask a friend here, phone a friend, or what is this? This is ask the audience. It's been a long time since I've watched, I didn't even know the name of the show. Was it a Chance to Be a Millionaire? I forgot what the name is. Yeah, I don't think Piat's going to be there. I see some combos with him. What cards are you most excited for? People were most excited off the chart. My Google didn't even hold it. Google didn't hold it. It was Price. People love the Price. I have no idea who she is. You could tell me that she was in Wrath of Khan. I'd say I agree. I remember seeing her. She was with Ricardo Montalban, his wife. But she's hotness. What's next after that? People say Cassian. Number 2. Tied with Dooku and Darksaber. God. See, here's what you don't understand. Well, that sounds really demeaning. Here's what I think I've learned. How about that? What I've learned is that people who listen to the show, and the majority of people aren't sitting out there playing at the top tier all the time. We're playing with our friends. We're playing with our neighbors, brothers and sisters across the world, holding hands, playing Destiny. It doesn't have to be the top tier stuff. I forgot his name, called me out on Facebook in a positive way. It was a great exchange around pod racers, and that Jay and I were hating on it on one of the episodes. And I feel like he's right. I feel like he was right. And I took a step back and said, you know what? I want to build that deck. I want to build that Gungan deck. Join me building a Gungan deck. And the Gungan deck won. Somebody said somewhere it won a championship. I don't know where I saw that picture. Was it Zach Bunn, Team Covenant? You know, you actually watch too much Destiny or you listen to too much Destiny content when the names I'm telling you, you know. Because it's that community. But I think it was his playing partner, actually, that defeated him with that deck. And I salute you, sir, for doing that. But Darksaber is a fun card. I played against somebody who, in Sealed, which I'm done with Sealed, I've got all the cards. And, Sealed, I just get frustrated. Sometimes it is the luck of the draw. I mean, that's an excuse, or at least I can blame it on that. But anyway, he opened a Cassian and a Darksaber. Like, the one card I need right now is Cassian. Which, by the way, it is underpriced right now on eBay. To me, that's the buy. Don't buy Snoke, buy Cassian. Because I opened 4 boxes and got 0. But I got 4 Snokes. If you want to trade me, which this may turn out to be, if no one else joins me on this podcast anymore, it may be a trading podcast for me. So that's fine. It's like one of those old radio call-ins where you would do swap meet. Before Craigslist, by the way, for those of you who are not 45, which, by the way, happy birthday to me. For those of you who are not that old, back in the day, there was no Craigslist. So these people would get on to local access radio and they would be a swap meet. And by the way, they were a huge target for like Howard Stern calls. That's going to be this show. It's going to be the Destiny swap meet. I got 4 Snokes and 4 Lukes in 4 boxes. Who needs it? Because it's yours. You need to trade me Cassian and someone else. By the way, if Monk from Monk's Gaming Battlefield is listening, Monk traded me about, 6 months ago. I gave him, what was it? Darth Maul's lightsaber. Pre-nerf, by the way, and I had no insider information, Monk. That was like the hottest card. The word on the street on that card was like, you play it and you win, right? That card was amazing. It was in every deck ever. I traded him Maul's lightsaber, like 2 original Leia's. Awakening. Was she Awakening? She was. Awakening's Leia's, which is still a decent card. I think 2 Padawan. I think 2 Shotos. Like, I gave you a lot of stuff, Monk, but I got a Yoda out of him. And he has not gotten a Yoda back since, so I feel bad about that. But I still only have 2 Yodas. I did get a spot gloss Yoda, but I only have 2 Yodas. Anyway, I need a Cassian. If anyone wants to trade me. I think that's the buy on eBay. That's what I do. All right. And then I said, what cards are you most excited for? Did we just read that? We did. After that, what was it? Oh, Darksaber. So he opened up a Darksaber and a Cassian, and the Darksaber was rolling like hotcakes. Of course it was. Card's nuts. You know what card is nuts too in draft? Dooku. But Dooku's tough to pair. My pairing was terrible. I mean, I was in all 3 games. I won 1. I was 1 and 2. But I don't want to go 1 and 2 anymore. What did I play? Dooku, Blowbot. Yeah, terrible. But I can hear you telling me it's terrible. Like, that's how sad it is. Like, I'm predicting, as you're listening to this, if you're still listening, I'm predicting you saying, like, that's horrible. It's 2 dice. Yes, you're right, but I lost last seconds both games. Like, it came down to rolls. That ability is so good. Like, just hanging on to Dooku. Everybody's playing melee. Like, that ability is killer. It's just tough to pair him. Like, if you get him elite, you're set. Which is possible, because I have like 800 Dookus. And then what cards do you feel are most overrated? Choose 2. Here's what people said. 25% said Grievous. I don't think he was overrated. I think people thought he was terrible from the second he came out. But again, we're talking about people who just like to play cards that are fun. Not always about the hot meta. Who else was overrated? Cassian was overrated. Many people. I think people misinterpreted that question. They thought, like, which card do you hate? Cassian. Because that card is not overrated. That card is broke. It's dang broke. What else? Darksaber, 14%. DJ, 12%. And then Fifth Brother. I don't know if Fifth Brother was overrated. I think the Hyperloop spoiled that one. I don't even think they thought it was all that hot. All right, here's the last thing, because we got to wrap this up. Last thing. Well, Way of the Force meta. What do you feel the Way of the Force meta will be best known for? Mill. Many people said Mill. More Mill options. The rise of Hero Mill. This is really telling, by the way. Where are you going to get this content? I mean, you want to learn about winning Destiny? Like, there's so many podcasts you can do that. Now, where are you going to get what the people feel? It's the voice of the people. Sorry, I have to take a drink. I'm shouting too much. That's what you, FFG, that's what you do to me. As my microphone falls off. Like, I'm shouting so much the microphone's falling off. What do you feel the Way of the Force meta will be best known for? Mill, Hero Mill, the rise of Mill. These are actual answers people typed in. Power creep, the spirit of rebellion of this meta. Interesting. Like who? Who in particular are we talking about? If I go to my cards, let's see what we got. Way of the Force. Let's go to characters. You know, I love Star Wars Destiny DB, but I don't like the search engine as part of it. It never works for me. Like, I click on, so if I want to see characters, I click on character, hit search. Okay, now it worked. Yeah, but I didn't get the right set. Let me go back. Talk amongst yourself for a second. Well, while I look at this, talk to your family. Ask them what they think about what this meta will be known for. What does your wife or husband, your significant other, what are your kids? What does your 7-year-old in the back seat feel that this meta will be known for? All right, I click on type. I click character. Let's see, set. Where's set? Here it is. Way of the Force. Mid search. There you go. Anakin, 7. I don't see a lot of creep. I don't see a lot of creep at all. I see an old Leia that's 11. Health, we're talking about health here. Overpowered. 5th brother, 13, 16. Grievous, no one's playing that trash. Jabba the Hutt. Spoiled it. That will be the meta. So we just assume that's correct. Luke. Yeah, I mean, these are 12 health characters. But again, I mentioned it before. We're overcorrecting maybe a little bit, right? It's like if you slice the golf ball, you adjust your stance, you kind of turn the club in, and then you hit it, now you hook it. Do you think that's what happened? Did they just hook it? Is this set the overcorrection? Is this the overcompensation for the slice? What do you think? It's questions at discardorreroll.com. I want to hear what you feel the meta will be best known for. We're going to post that question to our Twitter and Facebook. We're going to read your responses next week. We've got some more here. More use of big plot cards and balancing low point characters. They're right. They're 100% right. Plots. Chance Cube did a whole thing about plots with Zach Bunn. I loved it. Great discussion there. I think that's where this game needs to develop. I think there's all kinds of stuff. You talk about draft. The thing I liked, long-term plan, first pick. So I did run long-term plan, Lobot, and what's his face? Dooku. Wasn't just those two. Forgot to tell you, little detail I forgot to tell you. That card did work. That card did work. So much work that I said it like that. Specials, so many specials. I don't know, maybe price, but Luke 3 blowing people up with force waves, the introduction of the spot a character type mechanic. Here's one, ruining this game. Man, they seem very angry. Power creep. The rise in popularity of trilogy, tribal decks becoming a thing. I'm not sure what that means, tribal decks. It's got to be a Magic thing, right? I don't know. Characters with more health, no action cheating. I like that. Like people, they're spot on. Lots of people playing. Great answers. Here's one. I got to read this. Completely overwhelming and eliminating the older cards due to better plot usage and teaming up. Characters like OG Palpatine, early Finn, Chirrut. Is that how you say his name? Jin. And some others need a quality of life update. Quality of life. I love it. To give us more to use them, or we will see 3 characters take over. Very right. Palpatine needs a point drop. His blank needs to be 1 disrupt. Jin needs to be 18 elite. Yeah. Quick fact for you. That's never happening. Maybe they're going to do something. They're going to reprint. I mean, there's 3 Hans now. Chirrut or Baze need a point down at elite. Finn needs a point drop. Yep. I'm with you. You're going to see that. I mean, I don't have any insider knowledge, but you're going to see that. The thing I think for sure is Vader. You got to get Big Daddy Vader in the game. Get him in the game. Somehow he's got to come back. I don't know what they're going to do. I don't know when they're going to do it, but they need to do that. I would assume you're going to see Vader probably at the next block of sets, maybe even in a 2-player, because they've got to get those big guys, big characters back in the game. And by the way, Ewoks, please. At some point, we need Ewoks. So there you have it. We had some things we didn't talk about. We didn't talk about cards I liked. We don't need to do that. You know what cards you like. Well, we'll talk about it next time. Across the Galaxy, we didn't talk about that either. It's funny, when I read those cards, like I'll give you one for example, from Across the Galaxy. Where is that over here? Headed on. I thought this was the page, and this was the one about the dice binders. I didn't tell you what's in the dice binder, by the way, in the promo picture. Phil, remember Phil? Phil's the one. He's the one who wrote the copy. Then they said, "Hey Phil, what dice do you want to put in the promo shot? You got the DSLR camera?" "Yep, I got it." "All right, what'd you do?" "Well, I got 2 Finns in here." "Oh, you're promoting the new set, the legendary from Legacies?" No. The original Finn, the yellow one. Got 2 of them in there. Good God. I think they just How many cards? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. There's 7, 14, 20. There's 28 dice in here. So you know what they did? They just took the two intro sets. What are they called? The 2 starter sets. That's it. There's Rey and Finn. There's Kylo. There's Stormtrooper. There you go. Enjoy that. There were some good cards in that. Mind Probe's in there. That's still an expensive card, which is crazy. So I digress. I was going to talk about Way of the, whatchamacallit? Way of the Force. Across the Galaxy. Across the Galaxy. Fantasy Flight Games. There it is. God, that was shocking when that came out, wasn't it? I really think somebody like had that on auto post and it went out. They're like, oh, crap. Phil. Was it Phil again? Well, you told me that it would be released and that was the time to do it. We set this out at the meeting. And I was at all the meetings and you were not at all the meetings. Phil. So Phil posted this and what do you got here? I mean, holy crap. I'd love to see if Jeremy knew. He's sitting drinking his coffee. Somebody give me Phil on the phone. Yeah, crazy. Like Eden Verso, which is not how you say her name, but I actually know. Here's one that I know because I have Battlefront 2, and I know that she was the character in The Mask. I haven't seen her I didn't play enough to see her get past the first level, but she's in there. So while one or more of this character's character dice are in your pool, your opponents cannot take additional actions. Here's how I read that totally incorrectly. You can't take any more actions? How's that even possible? How can you play the game like you'd lock the game? It's a loop. It's an unending loop. It's additional actions. Additional actions. But that's tough. I mean, I love that combo. I love they're going there. But you know that's a direct, what that is. That's to fix all the garbage they did with Ambush. So, give you an option. And then Kit Fisto. Love this card. I think I know where he's from. Isn't he episode 1? I think I know where he's from. Kit Fisto was, he's blue. He's 11 points of health. 13, 16. One melee, 2 melee, 3 melee for a buck. 2 focus and a resource and a blank. That's a good die. Yeah, it's got a pay side, but that's a good die. People look at that and say, yeah, it's all right. That's freaking amazing. It has 2 focus. It has 3 damage sides and a resource. What more do you want? Like every card is not going to be Yoda with damage. Like that's amazing. Oh, and by the way, you can't kill him. Before this character takes damage, you may remove one of his character or upgrade dice showing melee damage to block damage equal to the value showing on the die. And his quote is, "Revenge is not the Jedi way." I don't even know if the guy can talk. He's a fish alien guy. Holy mackerel. No pun intended. Fish, mackerel. That's crazy. I heard Tiny Grimes talking about this the other day, and he's saying, like, think of that in a vehicle deck, right? You just got him left. You can't kill him. You just turtle up. You turtle up big time with this guy, and you just do the work with your vehicles. Which, by the way, you can play hide and go seek TIE Fighter. What do I mean by that? Well, it costs 2. It's a villain red vehicle, which, by the way, red got better in a hurry because this is the overcorrection, people. This is the overcorrection. Now we're starting to know where vehicles come from. This is where Vader's TIE Fighter should have been, and it should have been for 2, not for whatever it is, blue. But they're learning these things as they go along. So now the vehicles are in the red. Ambush, you can include 4 copies of this in your deck. 4 copies. And after you play it, hide and go seek. Go find another one, reveal it, bring it to your hand, shuffle. Do not discount the power of shuffling your deck. Because there's a lot of things that make you, now you can put stuff from your discard into your library and put them at the bottom of your deck. Shuffle them up. Ancients, shuffle them up. Now you could get a next draw. Like that's the randomness coming back at you on hand. This is good. 4 of these in your deck. It's got a 1 ranged. It's got 2 modified, ranged, 2 indirect, 1 disrupt, 1 resource, and a blank. But it doesn't matter because you're going to upgrade that with a triple laser turret. That's got 2 ranged, 3 ranged for $1, 2 modified ranged, 2 indirect, and a shield and a blank. That's for 2. Modify vehicle support. Play this upgrade only on a vehicle support. While it's in your pool, they can't remove your die, support die. I mean, we're starting to get into some awesome stuff. I didn't even want to look at these. I can't look at these. But November's the release date of this. PAX Unplugged. Now, I know we said we were going to go to Gen Con. That can't happen. I'm mad and jealous about that, and I can't wait to watch the coverage of that on the internets and on Twitch. And I think that's officially, what is that? Officially the North American Championship? I believe that's what that is. It is. North American Championship. The details, by the way, on that starts on, I have it right here. Thursday at 12 p.m. Thursday. There you go. Talk about specific. Thursday, 12 p.m. That's what it says on Gen Con's website. God forbid they give you the date. Here's what the description is. Select your favorite heroes or villains from the Star Wars saga and battle for supremacy. Prizes for the top tier as well as participation prizes will be awarded. Tournament registration closes at the listed time for this event, which is noon. Play will begin promptly. To compete, each player must bring a sleeve deck and provide a written or printed deck list at registration. See? You just have to do that beforehand. Get it from our Patreon, Google Share Drive. Ready to be inspected for the tournament legality. In addition to a deck, players must also bring all card-associated dice and tokens. And don't bring your double-sided tokens. Get that out of here. I got the dates right here. It's August 2nd and August 3rd. That's coming up. It's the 19th now. August 2nd and August 3rd. So this is when you're going to see the meta really start. And if I think about that at early meta too with Empire at War, things change. By the way, this is the one where you can win the Afra mat, which is very cool. That I like a lot. Afra mat. What else does it say here? You can win. It says here, 2018 European or North American Championships earns you an alternate art version of one of the galaxy's most discerning archaeologists, Dr. Afra. Sounds fun. Day 2, of course, your archaeological dig needs funding too, and everyone who qualifies for Day 2 at either the 2018 European or North American Championships will receive the backing represented by a set of 6 acrylic resource tokens that nobody really likes. Then, if you're top 64, they're just taking this Afra theme to a whole new level. Continue digging and fighting past your rivals, and you may find your way into the top 64, where you'll gain access to a rare, double-sided card with the 2-player starter versions of Rey and Kylo Ren. Wow. Then, top 32, race, battle, and dig. You got to keep digging your way into the top 32. Phil, enough with the digging. We get it, Afra. We get it. It's a very important card. All right, Phil, keep going. And you will receive a commemorative... Oh, no. You'll receive a commemorative binder. Phil, enough with the binders, Phil. We get it. This one is different. This says championships. Fine, give him a binder. Would you at least take out the thin die in the promo picture? God, we got the DSLR camera for another day. You couldn't put a better dice in there? That's all I had. If you're just joining us, Mr. Chip has gone crazy. I'm actually doing an impersonation of a FFG employee named Phil, who writes copy specifically for promotions of the deck binder. And in a meeting, he actually was able to write promos for the championships, evidently for both the North American and European ones, and really likes Dr. Afra. If you race, battle, and dig your way into the top 32, you receive a commemorative binder that will stand testament. Good Lord, that is important, Phil. That will stand testament to your performance, even as it helps you sort and store all the other prizes you've received. None of which are dice. We've talked about that before. Dice. Maybe they've overcorrected for the dice, and they're going to come out with these crazy blinging dice. Top 8. Play your way into the top 8, and you'll recover yet another unique artifact. Phil, we get it. Another unique artifact. A commemorative Dr. Aphra playmat. That is what I want, and I won't get it. Emblazoned with the name of your event. It is emblazoned with it. Either the 2018 European Championships or 2018 North American Championships. This playmat, oh my God. This playmat places the rogue doctor amid a mysterious jungle populated by Nexu, where an older transport has been abandoned along with its secrets. That almost makes me want to quit Destiny. And then, whatever, you win other things. You win tickets. And so that's great. There you go. And then we got Nova coming up. That's at the end of the month, I believe. They're also doing a battle royale and booster drafts at Nova. Then, wait for it, PAX Unplugged. We're going to be at PAX Unplugged. That's how we're going to end today's show. PAX Unplugged. I'm going to tell you the date for that so you can book it. PAX Unplugged. Because now it's in November 30th to December 2nd. Last year, PAX Unplugged was when they did the Galactic Qualifiers were released, right? Now those spot glosses. Yes, this is going to be the new season of those for sure. I don't know that for a fact, but I'm guessing. And they're going to be a new set. We're going to go across the galaxy together, holding hands, skipping all across the Philadelphia Convention Center. It's PAX Unplugged 2018, November 30th to December 2nd. We will be there if you happen to be a Patreon supporter. Honestly, if you come up to me and tell me that you listen to the show, you're going to get some free stuff. We got plenty of things to give you, and you're going to love it, and I'm going to love it, and we're going to love it, and it will be so cool if the set drops then. Can't wait. Super pumped. Discard or reroll. Now, I want to tell you about what's coming up. We've got some good stuff coming up in the next few weeks. We'll be dissecting the meta, talking about cards. We'll be doing some live gameplays, which unfortunately, it'll tell you what not to do when you watch me play. Much, much more. Get involved with the show. Questions at discardorreroll.com. Let us know what you think. Give us your thoughts. Talk about the meta. Talk about your store championships. Tell me what you like, what you don't like. Your thoughts, your hopes, your dreams. I've got an interview that I have available for you with Jedi Geek Girl, by the way, and she was a great guest. Unfortunately, it's a little old at this point because we talked about some of the predictions of Way of the Force, but there's so much good stuff in there. I'm putting it on the end of this show. This is a super long show. Pause it right now. Go get yourself a cup of coffee. Grab a drink. If you're Bobby Sapphire, get your box wine. Curl up in front of the fireplace, even though it's 108 degrees outside. Play some Star Wars Destiny. And as always, may all of your rerolls be special ones. We'll see you on the next episode.
This is Jedi Geek Girl from I Rebel, and I never, ever listen to Discard to Reroll with Mr. Chip.
Touch won't trust, Daddy.
I won't roll trash.
Hi, this is Ben from California, and I never listen to Discard to Reroll with Mr. Chip.
Hi, I'm Seth Holocron, and I never listen to Discard to Reroll.
You sat in Big Doo-Doo.
Hey, this is Bobby Sapphire from the Hyperloops, and I legit never listen to Mr. Chip on Discard to Reroll.
Discard to reroll.
Our next guest is a pillar in the Destiny community. Her podcast, I Rebel, has featured interviews with some of the greatest minds and players in the game today. I don't say that because I was on it. It's other people other than me. As a player, she's not too shabby herself, winning a local store championship when that store happens to be in the backyard of the mothership. That's Minnesota, for those who might not know. It's a pretty big deal. She was top 8 at the North Dakota Regionals, top 16 at the Minnesota Regional. She finished 9th in the 2017 Kessel Run, headed into the championship event there. And she was the 2017 Star Wars Destiny Summer Twin Suns Cup champion. Wow. Along with that, her I Rebel blog publishes some of the best content you could hope to read. Her promo tracker is a resource I depend on to help build my collection of crazy, rare Destiny cards that some days I feel like I'm the only person who collects them. And I mean this next part. If Fantasy Flight Games were ever to create a Star Wars Destiny Hall of Fame, this person, in my opinion, is a first-time ballot inductee. I'm talking about none other than the Jedi Geek Girl herself, Amanda Reynolds. Amanda, how are you?
I'm doing fantastic. I'm trying to sit here absorbing your wonderful introduction. Like, no one introduced a guest better than you.
I mean, the accolades are are too numerous. I mean, I didn't even talk about the pie charts you make. I mean, you single-handedly track the meta better than anyone, I think, in the game.
What can I say? I'm pretty obsessive when it comes to data collection. It's almost like I do it for my day job.
You do, I think, don't you?
I do,
okay.
Yes.
Well, it definitely fits you. But and I genuinely mean this. Thank you so much for being on the show. And when I first got involved with the game, which was right after, really Awakenings, but I just couldn't get any of the product, which I know a lot of people had the same problem. But when it finally was available during Spirit of Rebellion, I started buying packs. I like to consume my content through podcasts, and your voice was one of the first ones that I ever heard. And, I followed you through sharing about the game and in the community. And, I just appreciate all the work you've done to help grow Star Wars Destiny. And it really got me involved to want to make content. So for that, I just want to say thank you for all that you do.
I am truly humble. I know that it is a passion of mine, and it took me a little bit to find my niche, but with I Rebel and what I'm doing now, I am riding a high in life and content creation because I love Star Wars Destiny, I love Star Wars, and I love the community, and right now, I'm home.
Yeah, well, clearly there's a lot you can school me in Star Wars. You've helped me when I was on your show, which I really enjoyed. It was a great experience. We've got a lot to talk about tonight, and I know the night is young, but it'll get old really quickly, so I want to make sure I get through some of this stuff with you. You hate solo, so we learned that and through some of the sharing you've done, and we got to talk about that. You play broken meta decks. We got to talk about that a little bit, right? Because I think Po Maz was one of those decks you won a championship with, and then you talk about Sabine, so we can go there. We got Way of the Force stuff that just started to come out and more. So let's get right to it. First thing, Amanda, I got to tell you, you've hinted at and danced around a little bit some of your story just in terms of creating content, but your love of Star Wars started as a little girl, right? And it kind of has grown ever since then?
It did. I was introduced to Star Wars through, when you're a young child, you look through your parents' collection, and my mother had a VHS collection, and I stumbled across Star Wars. And I don't remember my first time watching it, but I remember watching it over and over again every week. Matter of fact, I remember not liking or caring for A New Hope because it was so slow. I was always looking for the conclusion, but Star Wars has always been a part of my life. There has been gaps in my life where I got sidetracked, with real life. You get romantically involved with people and other franchises. You grow up but now I'm back home with the franchise, and I'm in it deeper than I have ever been before.
So you live in Minnesota. You live close to where Fantasy Flight Games is. What was it that got you involved with picking up the game? Like when did you first see it? And have you always, were you involved in some of the other games that they have, or what was that connection and how'd you get started with Destiny?
I am what you can call a day zeroer. Basically, I first found out about the game because I was playing the Star Wars LCG game, which is a fantastic game, and I was trying to come back to gaming after a year break of other games I used to play, and I am obsessive. If you haven't noticed, anybody who follows my content knows that I'm obsessive about information. And so I was subscribed to the Fantasy Flight theme. So within the hour that it was announced that Star Wars Destiny was a game that was coming, it really captured my imagination and my passion because it contained Star Wars. It was a CCG, which has always been a passion of mine. I prefer CCG games. The LCG game is fantastic, but it's too slow with the product releases, and everything lined up perfectly. And not too long after that, I created a Facebook group, and I've been riding this ride ever since.
Yeah, for sure. And then, so your idea around creating content for it. Did you do anything prior to this, or was it just the combination of this game and Star Wars, and you felt you were compelled?
I was compelled because every other game that I played, I've always entered towards not the beginning of its life. So you're coming into a game with people who've been around since the beginning or a year or two before you, so you're in the middle of something with Star Wars Destiny, it was an opportunity to start from scratch and try to create something that can be a kind of a pillar of the community. And I tried doing that. Before then, I never did any content creation, no social organization. I did keep a journal, which a few people, close friends, have access to, but no other content creation. So that's basically where it started for me. So
my first experience in listening to you was on another podcast that won't be named, Chance Cube. But you started there, and you could tell already your ability as a player, your knowledge of the game, your knowledge of Star Wars. It was like the perfect storm of all those things together. You put together the resources it was the meta. That's where the meta tracker piece came through. Did you do the price guide too for them, or was it just the meta piece?
Yeah, the Price Watch is my
Price
baby.
Watch, that's what it was. Yeah. So for the collector, which this game scratches like all those itches for me, which is this is the perfect storm in many, many ways. It's the kind of that, it's not the gambling per se, but it's that dice rolling, luck, odds, push your luck kind of thing. The great art in the cards, the collectability. So understanding that cards have value and just the chase and all of that stuff. So your resource really, I mean, that was the only game in town. Like, you were the only person ever doing that from the day the game started.
It was my intention to try to create resources that other people wanted, especially resources that I wanted as a player. A way to keep track of prices. I used to do that in the Facebook group. That's where the genesis really started. It really started when basically it was only the Rey and Kylo promos. There was also a promo guide that I did. There was the meta tracker, stats of, who did well. A lot of the resources that you see around in the community, I did once or twice, because as a player myself in other games, I was always drawn to these resources. I remember in other games I was a big fan of, there was a blog that posted what I'm doing right now with iRebel, with the eBay, like the top selling eBay cards. I would like to do that, because that is what I wanted as a player. I wanted to go to a place that had those stats. So when you want something that isn't there, do it.
Yep. And thank you for doing that. I mean, I think it's awesome that you've done it. So one of the questions I had, Amanda, and I don't want to set you up for anything that would make you uncomfortable sharing, but one of the things about your story that I think is the most unique and fascinating, and a lot of people we find in Destiny for some reason happen to be educators. There's from Tiny Grimes and Bobby Sapphire, and the list goes on of people who are involved in helping kids to just discover who they are as people, and ultimately, follow their dreams, and the whole beautiful story that ends up in fame and glory. And for you, I know you had some challenges early on. You mentioned something about your hearing loss, and it gives you a unique voice, both literally and metaphorically, in the community, as a female positive influencer on the community. And then you ultimately do a podcast, which, quite honestly, if you have somebody who suffered from hearing loss, all you're doing is speaking, and you're doing a podcast, which puts you out there in front of the community, which has to be really make you so vulnerable. A, I want to say thank you for doing that, but B, can you share a little bit about that story and ultimately that you feel comfortable enough doing a podcast, which thankfully you do?
I don't know when it originally started. I don't know if I was born deaf or if it was because of the tubes I had in my ears in the a long time ago. It was a experimental procedure where they were trying to treat kids who had ear infections by putting tubes in their ear to drain the fluid. That was an experimental procedure. And the doctor provided the option to my mother to try to treat my hearing. And against the doctor's recommendation, she said, go ahead. So we don't know if my ears were damaged that way or I was just born that way. So I was born this way my entire life. And when you grow up with a handicap or a difficulty, whether it's social or family or economical, you don't know any difference. And of course, when you grow up and you see that, hey, people are not talking to me, or they are assuming that I have a lack of intelligence, you're not aware of that until you get older. And then, of course, you try to do something that defies your handicap, and of course, it is immediately focused on and judged because people will think that you're less, and that has been a challenge in my life. And as we get older in life, I know it was a long time ago back when, when you had to walk both ways uphill, but,
For sure. I still do, by the way. That's all right.
You don't have a lot of self-confidence, and you're unwilling to take risks because you don't want to put yourself out there. And as I gotten older, I want to do talk radio, or I wanted to do talk radio since I was a little girl listening to WGN 720 in Chicago. I wanted to do that, and I never felt comfortable putting myself out there because of my speech, the way that I talk, the way that I sound funny, the way that I sound makes it sound like I'm not intelligent when other people have told me otherwise. I never wanted to do that. And then eventually, a couple of years ago, everything lined up. A new game was announced. I was back into Star Wars. It was a new beginning, and now I'm moving forward. And the sky is the limit. And you know what? I might not be the most popular person due to my voice, because I know that it can grate on people. But I'm doing what I'm doing, not because I should be, but because I shouldn't be, and I define my handicaps and I defy my limits, because I truly believe that you set your mind to anything, do it. Even if you're not popular or successful, at least you're doing what you love, and at least you're doing what can inspire others.
Well, yeah, you're killing me right now. I didn't think I was going to get emotional tonight, but I think that's a fantastic story, number one. Number two is your voice is 1,000 times better than listening to Jay and Chris's. So I did listen to you 24 hours a day versus theirs. And honestly, one of the things, and you and I talked a little bit beforehand, is that in any game, in any content, you want unique perspectives and unique voices. And I think you bring a lot of that to the table. And I, for one, am very glad that you do it. And I know the people who listen to your podcast are very glad that you do it. So thank you for all that you do for the community, for sure.
Yeah, you're too kind. Without the community, I would be nobody. I am truly humbled by the listeners who listen to my podcast and the content creators who have me on their podcast. I'm truly humbled to be a part of such a wonderful community, and I love doing what I'm doing. And I will be here till, the last dice are rolled.
There they are. Now, speaking of the fact that you play all these dirty decks, let's talk about Pomaz, because Pomaz was the deck that you took to your local championship. Am I right about that?
Oh, not only that, I won back-to-back events with it.
So one of the things I wanted to talk to you about is, and that's when I first started to listen to content, and I'd hear people talking about Pomaz, and I really didn't even understand. I mean, I knew the characters, and those are characters I actually know because they're in the movie called Star Wars. If with all of the balance of the Force and all that business, could that deck still be good, Amanda? I know it would be one die Maz, but I'm thinking, like, if you throw it a Maz's goggles there, could that deck actually be competitive still?
No, it was my opinion that while it was broken, and it did, to steal a common phrase, it did Pomaz things, it wasn't as broken as FN2177. Yes, Pomaz, can steal victories, and it really felt bad. Really, really felt bad. The deck was pretty easy to handle. Basically, you just control Poe's dice and you're fine. A modern day Pomaz with one die Maz is not competitive at all. Oh. I know that at World somebody was playing that in the pod next to me, and I was like, way to go. I mean, if Poe came back, yeah, he would do crazy things, but it's such a glass cannon that. Yeah. So. But,
all right.
I
shot my dream down. You talk about dreams. You just broke mine, but that's fine. I was going to try and bring that deck back.
Well, go for it.
No, that's not good. That's a glass cannon is not the theme that I want of my deck when I bring it to a tournament. I'm bad enough on my own. I don't need the deck to help me along that way. Why didn't you like Han Solo? I felt like that was such a good movie.
Okay, so to be fair, I need to clear the air. I didn't hate the movie. I just didn't really care for it. And I talked about this, and I got to plug another podcast that I do with the Bizzlecast. We're doing a recording about how I responded to the film. But anyways, I didn't hate it. It just wasn't my cup of tea of Star Wars.
Right.
That doesn't mean that it is not a good film. That doesn't mean
you said something to the effect of not my Star Wars. I'm guessing.
Okay, so to what I went what I said in my podcast when it wasn't my Star Wars. It wasn't a negative thing like you see it around in society that not my so-and-so.
Yes.
It's just basically when I go to a Star Wars experience, I like getting invested into the film. And while Han Solo is not Han Solo, Solo is a fun experience, it didn't have that spirituality and that emotional investment for me to get invested in that these last 3 films have hit.
For sure.
So, like some people say that if I can't get invested, if I can't react to a film, whether it's happy, sad, angry, then it's not an enjoyable experience. And I want to, whenever I go to a film, I want to react to a film. It doesn't have to be, crying or anger. I just want to get a reaction out of me. If I don't, it doesn't stick with me.
Oh, I'd love to say, I feel like we're still a little too early for me to say a couple comments. Maybe we'll have to, I want to revisit this at some other time with you because there's a few things that actually caught me in that movie. There's a few things that, the end we could talk about at some point, and clearly that'll catch everybody if you didn't catch spoilers. But
well, I do want to say that I did have that spoiled for me going into it. So there was no surprise to me. And I was talking to a friend of mine, and I'm like, I wonder how many people who, like, for example, Rogue One, when they went to see Rogue One, and the ending with Darth Vader, spoiler, 2 years old, but hey, go with it.
Right.
That they loved the film because of that reaction between Vader, Tarkin, and Leia. That taunts, that influences their reaction. And because I didn't have that going in, I had the spoil for me. Yeah. That it was a more, I don't want to say pure experience, but I didn't have that high that I was going off after seeing the film. So
one thing that's it's not a spoiler that obviously Han and Chewie are going to meet each other in this movie. I mean, they show them together in the trailers. So, but the context, which I won't give away, but the context of that, my middle daughter, who's 10, saw that one coming. She didn't know, like, when the event happened in that movie. I didn't even see that coming. And then all of a sudden that happened. So that was a surprise for me, that piece. Did you already know that one too?
No, I didn't, but you can kind of already see it coming before it happened.
See, I'm just
but
not
it was
smart.
such an experience that when it did happen, I'm like, okay, this is awesome.
Yeah, I thought that part was good. So there was enough of that event. All right, I'm just picking on you for Solo. I just had to give you some garbage, basically, is what my goal is with that.
Don't bring up Lando because I can talk about Lando during the whole podcast.
Oh, not your favorite version of Lando?
No. I love Lando.
Oh, okay,
I absolutely love him.
And so Lando happens to be one of the characters that I want him to be better than he is in the game because I feel like resources, and Bobby Sapphire talks about that, like profitable connections, play the good cards. That's one of the good cards, gives you an extra resource. If you can couple that with some Lando for resources when the game starts, like there's got to be something there. I feel like there has to be something with him that's just not explored yet, but maybe I thought Poe Maz could be brought back, so it tells you what I know, Amanda.
It is 19 points, which can be a little bit restrictive unless you do a single die Lando, but
yeah, no good. All right. I'm talking to the 2017 Kessel Run finisher. When was that tournament held?
So it was the unofficial ranking system of Minnesota.
Oh, okay.
So basically, Christopher Bates tracked all the games that were played in Minnesota, and he ranked everybody. So,
God. Wow, that's insane. That's pretty cool. What do you think? I've got just so many questions for you, Amanda. So thank you for dealing with my jumping all over the place. One of the things I strongly feel is that there needs to be some sort of a way to do just that. Maybe not just for Minnesota, but like everyone. Do you think what do you think about that? Like a tracking system, like a DCI, which they do for Magic, or I guess I didn't play Pokemon, but I think Pokemon's got some sort of a thing like that. Do you think that's what's that?
Go ahead.
Do you think that something like that, A, is needed in Destiny, and B, do you think it's likely to happen? I mean, you're in the backyard of FFG. Is that do they have that with any of the games? Do you feel like that's in the cards? No pun intended. Some sort of a way to track players and wins and all that kind of stuff.
One, I think it would help the game. It gets players a lot more invested in smaller events. It would be nice if you would be able to at least be able to track like your regionals and your store championships to have some sort of ranking system. I think that would be wonderful and would actually do a lot of good for the community. The problem with it is that I don't see FFG doing it. And another downside, and this is what I have to deal with in Minnesota, is every event, every game matters. And sometimes you just want to go to an event for fun, which I think if FFG if they would only track official events like store championships and regionals and other events, that might work. But I don't see them doing it because right now it seems like they're trying to refine their organized play through like X-Wing and other systems. So I would like to see it. I do think it would help the game. I don't think it's going to happen right away. And I would lean towards that, yes, we need it to engage the players at the very least.
Yeah, I was very excited. I know most people were not, at least Destiny fans, around the infamous hyperspace report that happened at the World Championships. And that it didn't talk about Destiny. It was just about X-Wing, which for X-Wing players, like that's a really big deal and it makes sense. The idea that they're going to have an app which you could build your lists and build your characters, and then they could errata cards and do all that kind of stuff. I was 100% sure that the next day they were going to announce that for Destiny. Like that makes so much sense. Like some of my favorite apps for the iPhone are those like the team trackers where you can actually put the combinations of teams together. And I had a conversation with Sith Holocron, Simon Willis from Ireland. And we were talking about combinations of characters. And, there's 29,000 pairings that you can do with just the characters we have now. This is pre-Way of the Force. So I'm thinking, having that a tool and a resource to engage the community like that. You can build your list. You can errata the cards. You can track your wins. I don't know. I think that would be pretty exciting. But it didn't happen. Maybe it will.
It would be pretty awesome to have that. I know that even though FFG doesn't have an official way to do all that sort of thing, having that level of engagement with your community through such a device so simple as character pairing just allows a level of interactivity that I think helps the relationship with the community.
Well, yeah. Now we just have to read your meta tracker, which is good enough for me right now, for sure. Tell me about your the decks that you've been playing. So I knew, and I followed your podcast since the beginning. You were Poma's girl from the start. You really liked Qui-Gon, and I could tell what deck you're like leaning towards because the guests that you would have on tended to either play that deck a lot or have a lot of knowledge of it. So I think it was John Magnuson you brought on, and I think asked him 1,700 questions about, was it Qui-Gon? What was that? I forgot which deck. Qui-Gon was involved in that deck.
Yeah, it was Qui-Gon Kanan. Yes,
Qui-Gon Kanan. So like that, I felt like that was going to be your deck. And then, Bobby Sapphire, how it happens to come on right when you're thinking about playing Sabine Ezra. So I see where you're going here with your decks. What gets you now? Like, what's the deck of choice if you're hopping into a tournament where you want to play competitively? Where do you feel like you would head right now?
Well, right now I would probably play Sabine Ezra because I want to refine it as well as the Master Bobby Sapphire does. I think that deck is, simple on the surface. There's a lot of layers to it that revolves around managing your resources, which is something I need to get a better handle on. I know that I was able to do a little play testing with Honestly Sarcastic and their crew. Yeah. And so right now, I would like to try to refine it instead of trying to master another deck. So it would be Sabine Ezra.
Okay. Where do you think with what and it's been a very small and quiet release of spoilers for Way of the Force, where do you feel like that deck's going to settle? Do you think it's still going to be there? Do you think when Way of the Force drops, an errata is going to come out, or that the Banhammer is going to come on Sabine? What do you think Way of the Force is going to do to that deck?
I think if Sabine doesn't get hit, you could probably see the same thing that you saw with this format. Like, it would go away because, new shiny cards, people would be drawn to that. And you probably will not see Sabine Ezra around until, like, after the format, like, stills a little bit. People might go to it as a old favorite. But unless, we get more ambush guns or maybe some yellow strong control cards that you probably won't see it. It's not a deck that dominates, and it's not a deck like R2P2 that is so consistently good that you're going to see it do well over and over again. It's a glass cannon of a deck that I hate to use the word rogue, but it doesn't have the same consistency and stability, and I would say there's a balance that your Ray Ayla deck does.
Yeah, so watching that being played at Worlds, and I got a chance to see a lot of Bobby's matches that he played with that deck, and just seeing it on Tabletop Simulator and everybody talks about it. To me, they nerfed a little bit running interference, which seemed not to even have an effect, which was interesting. But the card that I feel like is the most influential in that deck is Second Chance. Like, if Second Chance didn't exist, or you could only have one Second Chance, like, that deck becomes competitive, but it doesn't become like world beating, because when that deck gets hot, like, it's not being able to react is kind of what I think people get really frustrated by. But Second Chance to me, and on the other side, Force Illusion, to me, I think what's your opinion on those cards?
Well, I would first like to say that Sabine Ezra reminds me a lot of Pomaz, where you can get the opportunity to cheat out damage without your opponent reacting, but the strength of the deck and the quality of skill that is in the deck is the ability to stay alive long enough to get those things,
right?
Which isn't always going to happen. Why Bobby Sapphire is so good at that deck is not because he rolls threes all the time. Yes, that is a part of it, but it's because he's able to stick around and he knows how to manage his resources, and he knows how to stay alive. There's a reason why he went 13-0 before losing to a bad matchup that no other Sabine player did. It's because he knew how to manage his resources. Yeah. So I don't think that makes a deck broken. I think if there was a lot of Sabine Ezras with people who kept cheating out damage, that's one thing. But if you are able to stay around and survive in a deck with a deck that's a glass cannon, I think that deck deserves this position because you are doing something with a deck that you shouldn't be doing just due to how fragile it is. And yeah, and with Second Chance, getting back on subject, with Second Chance and Force Illusion, those are so strong of cards that it's really interesting because they do add length to the game, where if somebody didn't have either one of those cards, they would lose. But with such an aggressive format that you almost need cards like them in the game. Like, maybe they are too strong now, but you need something like it. Like armor plating is probably a better balanced card.
Yeah. Now, real quick, do you and Bobby and Jack from the Golden Dice, do you have weekly meetings to talk about Sabine Ezra, or is that more of a bi-weekly that you guys get together?
We actually have a little cult that's a private group where only Sabine Ezra players, like everybody that made two who's a Sabine Ezra player. Yeah, we have a little secret group. So.
Yeah. So here's the deal. Sabine Ezra's 11 health. So she's 15-20. Now, 20 points. Like, it's not, what are you going to do? Put her at 22 points? Or are you going to, if you did something to Ezra? Maybe, so that when I hear like the guys who I really like their new content from, give them a shout out from Arrowbrook Gaming, they talk about Ezra being the most powerful card in the game, like character in the game, which is really interesting because when that card first came out, A, I didn't know who the person was because it wasn't in my Star Wars, but B, people kind of laughed at it, and it ends up being this powerhouse card with some people say the best special in the game. But I digress for a second. So Sabine Wren, she's 15-20, she's got 11 health. 2 second chances on her makes her what, 21 health?
Mm-hmm.
That seems to be a little bit. That seems a little much. I mean, right? Isn't that a little much? Like 20. That seems a little much.
Well, let's look at Palpatine. I know that OG Palpatine doesn't see too much play, but let's look at him for a second. He has 15 health, right? You figure you get at least one rise again. That's 5. That's 20.
That's true.
20
rise
health.
again.
then you have shields. So let's say you get an average of, let's say you start out with the shields 2 and you resolve 2 shield dice. That's 4 health. And then let's say you get 1 embalmable off. That's 7. And then you add your removal and stuff like that. So
I see what you're doing here. I see you're turning it on Palp. That's pure dark side, Amanda.
Well, what I'm saying is that there's other mechanics in the game that adds health to your character.
True.
Removal is part of that. Where Second Chance does a lot. It heals 5, but it's one of many different mechanics in the game that prolongs the savability of your characters. It's no different than playing a 4-white deck that has 32 health.
Yeah, that's true. I'll give you that one. But Rise Again costs 5.
It does, but Palpatine usually can get it off once, or at least it's able to. I haven't played a Palpatine since Spirit of Rebellion.
Yeah. All right. I'll give you that. I will give you that. I don't know. I'm not sure if they're going to do anything. I mean, the interview that Jeremy had with Chance Cube, he talked specifically about Sabine, which to me, the last time that happened was when Lucas specifically talked about FN, and then Holocron came out, and then Balance of the Force, and then that was done. Do you think the cards that are on there now, like Unkar, do you see an adjustment happening?
I am a big fan of free Unkar just because I love you're talking about me loving broken decks. I love Thronkar, so I would love to play that deck again. But when it comes to cards I can see coming off, I can see Phasma. Maybe I don't see FN. FN pretty much has been solved because of the ruling change, but
yeah,
I would have to say if it would be anybody, it would be Captain Phasma.
Okay. Interesting. I like that. And, so Kylo, when all this stuff happened, like the deal was to stop that pairing, which came out of the 2-player set. Oops. Ends up winning Worlds. So go figure, right?
Yeah, it's absolutely amazing that both decks had a 2-player starter card in the deck.
Yeah, that set is off the hook. And one of the things, and I don't need any more, but I think I do need more because the targets that had that set, now I guess it's $15 everywhere. And if you can get one, did you pick up any at your local Target? No plug for them. They're not a sponsor, not even close.
Well, I know I got one on Force Friday, 2. And then the second one I got from a local game store.
So 2's your number and you're done. You don't need any more.
Yeah, I'm single, so I don't have to worry about having any for my partner.
You go. Yeah, see, that's that makes sense. I'm friends with a guy who doesn't like to take apart decks, so he tells me, yeah, he needs more hidden motives. Meanwhile, he's already got 3 rivals sets, so he's got a problem. So red characters and red color cards were ones that were very maligned, particularly heroes. So it's no surprise that FFG has been working on addressing it. And when Jeremy Zwern went on to Team Covenant's little show there and played a game with Zach Bunn, which, by the way, plug for iRebel. You had a nice interview with him just recently that's on your podcast. You can go subscribe. There's a whole bunch of red stuff. What do you think about the red spoilers that have come out, and from Gungans all the way to a crazy 3-point hero plot?
I like them. I know that I'm really looking forward to the Gungan due to their thematic nature, and there's just something about a card in the game that you put on the table that if you beat a player that can tilt them, there's just something about that that's so gratifying. Yeah. And another thing that I like about the red spoilers is that they're so thematic, and you see this with other cards that have been revealed so far, that it really makes you optimistic about the future of the game, because you see not only is there synchronicity between all the colors and the characters, but there's a sense of balance that hasn't been in the game since probably ever, maybe the Awakening thing, that it makes you really optimistic. I know I talked to the Jackal Buddies about it, which that podcast just was dropped. So there was a lot that I had to say that plug. I would highly recommend checking out that podcast.
Plug. Very good plug. That was nice. Very good podcast. What about, so here's a question, and Simon, plug for Simon Willis, and he's Sith Holocron, which he's played a lot of games on TTS, and he's from Ireland, and he's super nice, and he's competing this weekend at the European championships that are happening in, I forgot the name of the place it's happening, but it's big and it's in Europe and it's nice. We talked a lot about the battlefield with a die, and I joked that I'm probably going to have 40 of them because it's a rare, and I'll end up getting 40 of them and not a legendary. I feel like it's going to be my rebellion leader of Way of the Force. But the great part about it is that I officially, Amanda, have no knowledge of Star Wars anymore because I don't know what Bendu is. I don't know where it is. It looked like I didn't know what that character even. That didn't even look like Star Trek. I don't even know what show that's from.
So the Bendu is an ancient creature in the middle of the Force. So like you have the light side, you have the dark side of the Force. The Bendu is the middle of the Force, and the Bendu is embodied by this ancient being. I think you remember Guardians of the Galaxy, the first Guardians of the Galaxy movie?
Yeah.
Where you had the ancient being, celestial beings. That's basically what the Bendu is. He's so old, he's so ancient that he was around before the time that the light and the dark side split, or the light side was corrupted by, evil. So
did I fall asleep during a movie? Like, did I miss that part? I feel like I missed that part because I never heard anyone say, "May the middle of the Force be with you." I've never heard that.
So, the Bendu was in season 3 of Rebels.
That's
and
right. See?
It explores a concept in Star Wars that used to be called a gray Jedi, which I don't subscribe to. Me, it's an oxymoron, but the Bendu is a newer character, and it actually has roots in the early days of Star Wars, because instead of light side and dark side, it was like the Ashla, there's something else, losing Star Wars cred, but the fact that I can name Ashla is the light side of the Force, and then there's one for the dark side, and the Bendu is the one in the middle. Bogan, thank you.
Yeah, anytime you
need
it.
You knew that.
Yeah, because I'm reading the Wikipedia, whatever it is, the Star Wars Rebels wiki.
You think I would know that because I did an article doing the lightsabers, and I did the Ashla for the light side, and the Bendu for the neutral, and the Bogan for the dark side.
Okay, all right. Well, what do you think about the battlefield itself? What do you think? A, the concept of a die with the battlefield, and B, what do you think about this one?
I really like it because one of the things I like about Jamie, about what he's doing, is that he's adding layers to cards. So instead of a card with a simple effect, you now have a card with a die that put pressure on your opponent, as well as gives whoever controls the battlefield an extra die to play with. If you're playing a quick deck, that's another die that you can use for whatever you want to. It's an asset. It's a resource that you might not resolve, but you can use to remove for removal, or use this die side for a resource, shield, damage, or a focus. I think it has a focus, but there's just something about that engages both of the players that is good for the game, because you want a simple mechanic, but you want a mechanic that engages the player and makes them think. Because if you have the battlefield and you roll a die into the pool, you are immediately putting pressure on your opponent to claim to remove that die.
Yeah, and so plug for the show with Sith Holocron. He called the battlefield the 31st card, and I love the way he described it. I feel like what really good players do, and what I need to get better at, is really incorporating the battlefield into deck construction, because part of me feels like you might not get it. So if it's something you can't count on getting, then I don't want to really build a deck around it. So I'd rather pick something that's, just a throwaway. I definitely feel like that's the wrong strategy, because I've seen it really make or break people in when they play. And maybe a card like this will help bring better attention, or maybe players like myself who are trying to get better, to have more focus on it. And by having that die, it just makes you pay attention to that, I think.
Another thing about the battlefield that I really love, that I think a lot of people miss, is if you bring a battlefield to the game that works really good with your deck. Emperor's Throne Room is probably the best example of this. It immediately puts pressure on your opponent not to give you the battlefield. So if you're playing against, let's say, Paul Hondo, and you win a die roll, are you going to give them Emperor's Throne Room to take the shields and allow them to get the deck more efficient, or are you going to take your battlefield and give them the shield? in a game with health, if you're doing damage, it seems like it's a win-win situation. Either you get your strong battlefield or you get the shield. And I think that is a element of the game that a lot of people miss that starts even before the game even begins. So it's something to always think about when picking your battlefield.
You know, the other thing you're going to need to think about, Jedi Geek Girl, is taking that die back, because if someone claims that battlefield, they've got your little rare card, your little die, they walk away, they go home with your dice. So, you know, you need to get those, I've tweeted about them, those little dice cozies that you wrap the die. So you got to know your dice. You got to leave with the cards you started with. Like, some people aren't going to like that. You're going to be rolling my cards and rolling my dice. Just don't lose your cards, Amanda. Keep track
and definitely watch your dice, because, you know, when I was playing Pomaz, it was at Nationals over in Nova, and I don't know how it happened, but like in round 6, I had 3 Maz dice.
Oh, no. So you're the one I got to watch out for. You had 3 Maz dice. Oh, my God.
I don't know. So I'm wondering, I was like, I wonder if the person like dropped or something, but.
Yeah, they dropped it all right.
Maybe it was a foreshadow of the nerf to Poe.
The poor person had a black eye in the parking lot. You probably took it from him. Correct. So one of the things, it sounds like this battlefield is meant to work with the next guy they spoiled, which was Rex, which I'm being told, maybe that's when they talked about Bendu, that I fell asleep during, Return of the Jedi, that maybe if you freeze frame it at like the exact right time, that this character, Rex, happened to be in the background someplace. But Rex seems to be a pretty big character in some of the like Clone Wars and things you watch. But it seems like Rex in this battlefield maybe link up pretty well. What do you think about Rex and his role as a red hero?
Oh, I absolutely love Red. Red has so many strong cards that allows you access to abilities that would be strong if you did not have the battlefield.
Yeah.
You would not be able to use. So his ability allowing you to take that battlefield whenever you activate him, he's especially paired with hit and run. It's absolutely amazing because it can come out of nowhere, which is something that you want to use in this game. So if you're playing, let's say Rey Ayla, and they roll a lot of damage, and you're like, well, I have this removal that I can use, but I can only use it when I have control of the battlefield. Well, you just hit and run Rex. If you have a clone trooper, take control, and then you defense position all of that. I think that is amazing. And what I talked about in the podcast with the Jackal buddies, it has a level of interactivity with yellow that I do predict that yellow red might be decent. I don't know if it's going to be good enough to compete with blue, but I am really looking forward to that synchronicity, and hopefully we can get more red, because there was not a lot of red at Worlds, you know?
Well, they're trying to get you to play it, because then with that, we talk about having a long-term plan, which is a 3-point plot. It's exhaust this plot to place one resource on it or resolve one of your dice, increasing its value by the number of resources on this plot. So when you read that, by the way, that's hero, that's an uncommon. When you read that card, which again, clearly going together with this theme, it's valuing putting these resources, like we're talking round 3, round 4. And then, you know, what do you think about this?
I think right now it can be almost a trap card just due to how quick the games go, but it will definitely be a card that I think we'll see a lot of play once we get a couple more sets in, because especially when the games go longer, or it could be good in a control deck too, like a mill deck, just being able to stack up your resources. And I like it. I don't know if it's usable right now just due to how quick the meta can get.
Yeah, interesting. Are you, and just for my process, one of the things I like to do, just if I grab a stack of cards and start reading them, going through, like, are your cards in binders? How do you, when you start to go through and look at how these cards, like a long-term plan, interacts with existing cards, or Rex, when you talk about the battlefield and having control of the battlefield, when I grab those stacks of red cards to try to find the hidden gems, you start to see the word battlefield come up over and over and over again. Like you see that this long-term story that Destiny and the creators are trying to tell. What's your process look like for looking at cards? Do you do it online? Do you look at cards in a binder? Do you physically grab the cards? When you're going through that, what does it look like for you?
I mainly use Star Wars Destiny DB when I'm trying to search for something, like, let's say if I want to see which cards has interactions when you have control of the battlefield. I would use that as a search engine. But I do have a binder of cards that I do look through every now and then. I like to, like Coy from the Jedi Trials used to say, know your cards. And yes, you can look at them online, but there's something about looking at your cards in a binder that just makes it stick with you. Like, okay, what does this card do? You read it because you haven't seen it in a while. Like the Force is Strong. Do you know what the Force is Strong does?
Do I know what the Force is Strong does?
Yes.
Yes, I do.
Yeah, well, that one's an easy one, but what about...
I'm not going to tell you, but...
What about Quick Escape?
Quick Escape, I can tell you. Wait a minute, listen to this. And by the way, I was looking up the Force is Strong to see if I could answer it, and it wasn't fast enough. It's exhaust the support and discard a blue card from your hand to play another copy of that card from your hand for free. I know Quick Escape.
You had to look it up.
All right, but I didn't look. I promise, I swear on everything holy that I did not look up Quick Escape. That has Zeb on it. Am I right?
Yeah.
And it is I don't know how much it costs. I think it might be 2, and it's you can remove 2 die. And if you do, you have to pass for the rest of your turns.
It's 1 cost.
Oh, yeah, but come on. That's pretty good. Someone said, I forgot which podcast I was listening to, that they said they wanted to play, it might have been Sir Christopher, play a character and then find all the cards that the character's on and put those together because it's probably pretty good.
Yeah, that sounds like Chris.
Just terrible. But interesting. All right. Jedi Geek Girl, I've got a little bit of a challenge for you. One of the things when you talk about entertainment and being exciting in Star Wars Destiny, I mean, you could play the game. That's fantastic. Rolling the dice, like that's fun. However, there is nothing more fun than talking about rules and being a rules lawyer. Are you willing to go through a rules challenge with me right now?
Yeah.
All right. I love your enthusiasm for that, and I've forced you to do it. But that's okay, because we're going to do what we're calling the Galactic Courts of Justice. Does that ring any bells for you in Star Wars canon?
Is it supposed to? Interesting.
I might be teaching you a little lesson tonight, Amanda, so I don't know if you've got anything handy to write with, or you can just replay it. But the Galactic Courts of Justice, they've had some very famous trials in the Star Wars universe. I'm sure you're familiar with Alliance Case Y0043170014. That was the Galactic Federation. This is true, by the way, and I didn't know it before tonight. The Galactic Federation of Free Alliances versus, do you know who it was against?
The Republic?
Luke Skywalker. Yeah. Yep. Hold on. Wait, where's my sound effect? I lost it. I was all ready to go with my sound effects. It was going to be great. Here. Yeah. Against Luke Skywalker. Yeah. It was a legal case between the Galactic Federation of Free Alliances and Luke Skywalker, in which Luke was charged with, get this, I have no idea what universe this happened in, reckless endangerment of a population that took place in the Ninth Hall of Justice on Coruscant. The judge was Faeline, female, named Zudan, and Skywalker's lawyer was Twi'lek Naraven. And soon after everyone was seated, he pleaded guilty. He pleaded guilty to that. What universe is this from? Do you know anything about, I looked up courts. I wanted to have something funny. So courts and Star Wars, and this thing came up, the Galactic Courts of Justice. It's some alternate universe. I don't know. Nothing's not ringing a bell for you?
No, it sounds like the alternate universe in your head.
Okay. It's true. I looked at it. Is online, so it must be true. And it talked about Jason Solo. Do you know who Jason Solo is? Who the heck is Jason?
Well, that's a Legends character, so you're probably referencing something that happened in the Legends universe, which I am not that far along in Legends. So
what the heck is Legends?
So Jason Solo is the son of Han Solo and Leia Organa. He's actually one half of a twin, and his twin sister, who is Jason. Not Jason, but Jaina, whatever. Yes. And he actually, spoiler alert, he goes to the dark side.
Yes, and by the way, another spoiler alert, she kills him.
Yeah.
Oh, did I just give that away? I'm sorry. Too soon? Is it too soon? I'm sorry. I mean, it's too soon. I apologize. I know that probably hit you hard.
And another spoiler alert, but you know the scene in The Last Jedi when Kylo Ren is about to shoot the ship with Leia Organa?
Yes.
That was actually in the Legends universe where Jason, when he was in the dark side, was about to shoot his parents in the Millennium Falcon, so...
Oh my God. I think you've just busted this wide open. This is amazing. I cannot believe see how it all comes back? It all connects. Okay, well, here's the first question. All right, these are softballs. You're going to hit these out of the park. This question is, now, by the way, I get these questions from Reddit, and I laugh at the answers, and so I'm trying to bring the correct answer back to these people who probably don't even know we're answering. It comes to us from I Am One with the Force. That's his name on Reddit. He asks, hey there, I'm just curious on how the card At Peace functions. So At Peace, in case people don't know, it's a 2-cost blue event. It's turn each die that has one or more blanks to a side showing a blank. So if I were to play this the first turn, first round, does it do anything? It does nothing because there's nothing in anyone's dice pool yet. Or does it force them to all blanks before anyone has activated a character? Seems like a weird question to ask, I know. Just trying to learn more about the game. Thanks in advance. So I think about this question, Amanda, and I think, I would be confused too at the beginning. And I don't know if there's a great place for people to go to ask a question like that without, because someone would probably, I would hope, wouldn't laugh at that type of a question. But first of all, what's the answer to that question? And second of all, I wonder what good resources are out there for players like One with a Force who, is trying to learn the game.
So At Peace, you cannot you can activate it, but you cannot change die to a particular side if they are not in the pool. So if you play this card as your first action and there's no die in the pool, it would have no effect. I think it would fizzle out. So if you play it and there's no dice in the pool, you cannot change dice that aren't in the pool.
That's correct, Amanda. There's no dice in the pool to actually change, and I do believe it would. So it reads turn each die, so there are no die to turn. So you actually still cast it, but you lose your resources and the card goes away. And according to Bobby, if you say that out loud, then you can't take it back either. No take backs. Shout out Bobby Sapphire. And so new players, do you feel like it's a game that's easy for new players to get into at this point?
It really depends because Star Wars Destiny is such a fun and engaging game that you don't need a lot of knowledge or experience to get a hold of. But when it comes to getting into communities, it has improved, but it hasn't always been friendly to new players. I do think that there needs to be a collection of resources for newer players because you and I have been in it for a while, and when somebody comes along that asks a question, we'll help them out. Sure, we'll help out the next person and the next person, but when it starts getting to the 50th and the 100th or the 1000s, it can get kind of tiresome. And I do think that if you are a new player, that you can get into the game, you can enjoy yourself, but you also want to make sure that player has access to resources that are both friendly and are both respectful, because what might seem like a dumb question to you or me isn't dumb from that person because they don't know.
Right, for sure. And what's that resource look like, and finding good resources online to do that, and it definitely can be really, really difficult, particularly if you haven't played a game like this before, which is unique. Well, here's another question for you. Oh, go ahead, Amanda, please.
Oh, what I was going to say is I would like to issue a challenge to the community and say, hey, we need a Star Wars Destiny noob.com.
Yeah, I would love it. That sounds like a great thing to do. I feel like I'm not sure how many people are in that competitive, there's a lot of competitive conversational podcasts out there. And this is, I listen to every single one of them. And I feel like even when I didn't understand them, it made me ask questions and go research that. And that was the kind of guy that I was. And I felt by making a podcast, those who can't teach. So I'm hungry for that type of stuff, but I just wonder, with a resource like that, I think it would really help, is what I'm trying to say. So speaking of which, here's Corin Horn 25. You know what he wants to know? If the FFG holocrons and Balance of the Force updates affect draft games. For example, what is the cost of FM 2199 in draft? Also, Amanda, I love the fact that you didn't just call him FN, you called him FM 2199. So you used his first and last name. And on behalf of Mr. and Mrs. 2199, they say thank you for that. Does it affect draft? What is how does the holocron and the Balance of the Force affect draft?
So when it comes to draft, the Balance of the Force, when it comes to the point cost, is not applicable to draft. However, erratas are. Interesting. And that, by the way, is, I'm losing my sounds. That's correct.
that is very correct. In fact, there's an email from Jeremy Zwern that talked all about it. So, for instance, like fast hands can only be used on yellow characters. So the errata is in effect. Very interesting. Here's one from Ego Trip 21, Amanda. He wants to know, I seem to recall reading that I can resolve direct hit or Imperial Might on dice that have a resource cost showing in order to resolve damage without paying the resource cost. Is that true? If so, does anyone have a reference to it in the rules? I've looked, but cannot seem to find what I recall. So direct hit, for those who don't know, this is neutral red from the 2-player set. It costs 2. It's an event. It's resolve one of your dice showing damage, increasing its value by 2. And then Imperial Might is a 2. I love the art on that one, by the way. It's a 2 cost. It's an event villain. Resolve one of your dice, increasing its value by 2. So I guess his question is, if you play one of those cards and let's say it's, I don't know, 2 for a resource of melee, whatever damage it is, do you have to still pay the cost on the die?
Yes, you do, because the cost is the cost to resolve the die, not use the die of its value. It says resolve, and the cost is the cost to resolve the die.
You are on fire tonight. That is correct. And, you know, when you think about that, one of the pieces of feedback someone gave me in Magic is read the card. At the end of the day, read the card. And if it said, like, resolve one of your dice, increasing its value by 2, you do not have to pay the resource cost in that die. That's different. But resolving includes paying a cost. And that's a good one. That was interesting for me. That mechanic of like the modifier, you know, when I first played the game, that was unique. I think that's one of the unique elements of the game.
It definitely adds a layer to, like, coming back full circle, it adds a layer to the game that helps enriches the experience, because not only do you have to worry about a die with 1 damage, but you also have to worry about, can it pair up with this die, or can another die pair with this card? So I like it. It's an interesting mechanic.
Yep, for sure. All right, 2 quick ones. This one is more self-serving. I want to know your answer to this question. This is Obi-Juan 15, which I love his name. They ask, is there a rule for double sleeving your decks in a tournament? What do you sleeve your deck in?
I sleeve my deck in Ultra Pro pink sleeve. It's actually a Ultra Pro, what is that called? Promate.
Yep.
Promats,
yep.
So, yep, and it's pink. So
very nice. Very thematic. That's something you should make. You should make some iRebel deck sleeves. That'd be pretty cool.
They're a little bit expensive getting them custom made.
Yeah, that's true. That'd be a heck of a reward, though, for sure. So there's actually tournament regulations, which I read because I'm extremely nerdy. And here's what they say. They say that this is from page 6, by the way, from version 1.0. Card sleeves, players are required to sleeve their deck in opaque card sleeves. For formal and premier events, all sleeves within a single deck must be identical in size, color, texture, and condition. Have you checked the texture of those pink deck sleeves, Jedi Geek Girl? Are they the same texture?
Oh, yeah. I just lay around rubbing my sleeves.
Okay,
yeah, I do that.
That sounds good. At relaxed events, the good news, though, for you, it's going a different direction, Amanda. At relaxed events, if the player's not using opaque card sleeves or they've been rubbed too many times, he or she must make sure that all card backs have a uniform. You know what? That's the end of this one. That's good. Right. So we know which kind of sleeves you use. Here's one, though, that people might not know. And when you watch the top players, by the way, they do this, but I think all of us other jank players don't, is that your character in Battlefield, it says here, must, by the way. Players may sleeve their characters in Battlefield, but they must use different sleeves from their deck. Are yours in a different sleeve, Amanda?
Oh, yeah, they are. And if my deck sleeves are pink, then you know what color my other sleeves are. I mean, what are the colors associated with I Rebel?
Oh, that's the setup. White?
No.
Wait, blue. The blue? No, wait. Black.
Yeah, so it's pink and black. So if my deck is pink, then my character and Battlefield sleeves are black.
Gotcha.
And if my deck is black for like Worlds because I had to use it because they are opaque, then the other sleeves are pink. So
Very interesting. You know, I was listening to I forgot what they call it now, but Sugi over at Knights of Ren, and they've got a spinoff. I forgot what the holodeck. I don't know. I don't want to misquote it, but it was actually really interesting that they talked about like tokens and a lot of the mechanical like setting up of the game and stuff. I like listening to talk about that. And they talked about tokens and using like different counters for damage and stuff. So one of the things from the same page, by the way, talks about tokens. The players may choose to use other items as indicators so long as they do not obscure significant component information, are resistant to accidental modification, and the purpose of use is clear to both players. Do you play with any different type of stuff? Now plug for your Patreon because you have new tokens coming out.
I do. I actually use the I Rebel 8-bit classic box tokens in my Destiny game.
Tell me more,
for the
please.
For the other tokens, I use FFG, regulated official acrylic tokens from the quarter kits because we are working on other tokens. We actually have one coming out that is for powerful actions. That is actually a pink fist. And we have other things coming down in the pipeline, but right now I'm using basically all official tokens except the box tokens, but eventually they'll be all classic 8-bit.
Interesting. Now, how would one go and plug for you? How would one go and get those? Like, what do I have to do if I would like those tokens?
If anybody would like a set of tokens, we offer as a reward for $10 and more, which I believe is a captain tier.
Okay.
You basically get a choice of a set of tokens that you want. You either can get 5 tokens of one design or one color pattern, or a giant oversized token. And you get that every month at the $10 level, and you get to pick too. So if you like the box tokens, but you don't like the pink and black color scheme, we actually have a pink and white color scheme. So
wow. This is awesome. All right. Well, I'm going to have to go and check that out because I think the tokens look really cool. All right. I got one more for you because I've kept you for a long time. But this was one that I feel like I've heard. I heard this definitely talking in draft, but it's an interesting, I think, for new players to think about. It comes from Sir Racho, and he asks, hi, I'm just getting into the game. I'm trying to understand certain cards that let you roll dice into your pool. Example, Director Krennic. Do you need the Death Trooper card in your deck? Do you just add the die without the card? How many dice do you add? Unlimited. Do you have them for the rest of the game? Do they go away at the end of the round? There are a few cards like this, and I want to make sure I understand exactly what that means. Thank you. So I think about Krennic, which is, by the way, 12 health. And this is from Spirit of Rebellion. It's a red villain. After you activate this character, if you control the battlefield, there you go. See, control the battlefield. I believe there's going to be maybe a villain version of that plot. Roll a Death Trooper die into your pool. Set that aside. That dies after it is resolved or removed. And if you want to go blue villain, Seventh Sister has the similar type of effect. After you activate this character, you may roll an ID9 Seeker Droid die into your pool. Set aside that die after it's resolved or removed. So how does that work, Amanda?
So cards that allow you to roll in dice from your die pool, you don't need the cards in the deck. Like Seventh Sister, you do not need a ID9 Seeker Droid in your deck. I mean, you can run 2, but you don't need a third one. Or with the Krennic one, you don't need to bring a Death Trooper. Or training, if you run training, which allows you to place it basically makes your non-unique character elite. You don't need to bring the card. You just need to bring the die. So you don't need the cards. You just need to bring the die. One
of the questions when Bro TK became a thing, I wanted to know how many, and I never played the deck, which is great, but I wanted to make sure I could. How many ID9 droids were possible that I should have? So I ended up with, that deck, everybody was trying to play it, and those cards, remember that? They went like crazy money on eBay for those cards, those droids.
Oh,
so,
I remember.
6.
I was thinking about selling mine, but...
Yeah. Well, I think it went back down again, but I have 6 of them. So if anybody's interested, I've got a lot of those cards.
Yeah, I think I have 4 myself, but I'm not obsessive as you, at least when it comes to cards like that.
Yeah. What's your prized possession in your collection?
Oh my God. Are you talking Star Wars Destiny or are you talking in general?
Well, I want to know both then. Star Wars Destiny first and then in general.
Oh, that's a really hard one. Well, I think, that's an easy one. I had to stop and think. So for Star Wars Destiny, it would be the acrylic oversized Rey card that I have. It is a card that there's only, I believe, 12 in the world.
Oof, okay.
And there was a Kylo one that I don't have that I need to have that I really need. It is rare, it's valuable, it is limited, and it is something that I hold close to me because it is exclusive.
It's an oversize?
Yeah, it is. So if you look at a card, it's about 4 times the size, roughly.
Really?
Yeah, so if you take like 4 Destiny cards and you put them like 2 on the bottom row, 2 on the top, it's about that big. It's a little smaller than that, but about that big.
Was it a pre-release card? Is it a...
So, in order to acquire it, what you had to do is you had to be a FFG staff member at the preview event at FFG. There was only a dozen each for both sides, and you had to beat them with their deck. This was before the game was out, and
Okay.
I played Jabba, Django, and I
man.
forget what I beat. I think I beat a 3-wide deck.
Wow, I'm looking at it right now. These aren't cheap. Holy smokes.
No, and we actually have a picture of 2 of them on the I Rebel Facebook page in a promo material album.
Oh, God. Now I'm going to want one of these. So is it double-sided?
No, it's not. It's thick too. So if you look at the card, it's thick, and then you can actually see, I believe, the orange too. And not only that, but the lightsabers, they pop out a little bit.
See, I wonder if this is fake. I'm looking at one on eBay right now. It's $100. It's this Rey Kylo Ren oversized double-sided plastic promo.
That is something else entirely.
Yeah, see, thank you. I was going to buy that, and it's the wrong thing.
Right. I mean, if somebody wants to see a picture of it, they can just go to facebook.com/iRebelDestiny, and then you go to the picture, and then you click on that, and then you select the promotional material album, and it should be by the bottom.
Does it have in the back of it coming November 2016?
No, that is a regular promo.
Okay, good. I've identified all the ones that it's not. So if you want to know what it's not, come over to Discard to Reroll, and I'll show you what it's exactly not.
You're almost there. You're this close.
I want to see what, oh no, and that one's $280. Are you kidding me? Oh, I didn't. Why did I ask you that question? Now I'm going to want this. All right, then what about in your collection overall?
Overall, I guess that would have to be right now my autographed book of Is Your Universe that Ashley Eckstein signed.
Okay. Interesting. Did you? So you said you just met this person.
Oh yeah, I met her.
Okay.
Oh yeah, I met her.
Now, what does she do again? Help me for those who are a little less informed.
So Ashley Eckstein is the voice of Ahsoka Tano. Ahsoka Tano is an extended canon character. That's what I call in the Clone Wars and Rebels. She is the character that has 2 lightsabers. You usually see her with a green one and a yellow one, or 2 white ones, and she is the most popular non-film character in canon.
I'm looking right now on Amazon. Is the book called It's Your Universe? You have the power to make it happen?
Yes.
Well, see, Amanda, I feel like that's you all day long. And you talked about, and you shared that story at the beginning. And I think that you clearly have made it happen for Star Wars Destiny for sure. And now I have my other game with you. What if if you agree to come on when there's some more spoilers that happen for Way of the Force, and teach me all the things I need to know about this game, and then we play it then. Would you come back on the show?
Oh, yeah, without a doubt. I mean, I love your show, and it's an honor to being on.
Well, you're kind. And now, if anybody wanted to get involved with iRebel and be part of your tribe, what are ways they can do that? What's the best way they can to become part of what you're putting together?
The first place they can contact me is on the iRebel Facebook page. Just send the iRebel page a message, and I will get back to you usually right away. Or if you prefer something a little bit more traditional, you can contact us through our email, irebeldestiny@gmail.com. Or you can contact me personally through the Twitter account @JediGeekGirl. Or if you want another way that's a little out of the box, you can go to irebeldestiny.com and just hit contact us and send an email that way.
Or just if you really just shout out loud, like as hard as you can out your window, something about a Star Wars character that you'll probably will hear it.
Yep. They gotta follow your lead because, that's how you got a hold of me.
The Middle Force. I mean, if you believe in the Middle Force, like you taught me tonight, not the Dark Force, or not the Light Force, the Middle Force, the dark side, Bendu, I've got a lot of reading to do, Amanda. I've got a lot of reading to do.
Well, in your case, everybody else, they just have to close their eyes and believe in the Force. But for your case, you got to count your midichlorians.
Yeah, oh boy, I better count them. I'm a few short, as my wife tells me. But it has been my just a pleasure to talk to you. And again, sincerely, thanks for all the content you put out. And I look forward to hearing more stuff from you in the future.
It is an honor, and it has been humbling being on the show. Thank you so much for having me.